call the Thursday, February 27th, 2025 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Welcome, everybody. We have a nice group tonight. The first item on our agenda is our new alternate member, Linda Richards. So welcome, Linda. Why don't you tell us all about yourself? I know you were on a previous committee that we often get correspondence from, so tell us a little about yourself.
Well, there's not a lot to tell. Long time Middleton kid, grew up here.
We carved out 45 minutes for you to tell about yourself. So.
Well, when I was 7, I've been 3 years on the ICDRC, the Industrial Commercial Design Review Committee, and so I come to a lot of these meetings, and I find it very interesting how they work and the kinds of decisions and that sort of thing that get made. But it never occurred to me that I belonged on this committee too. So anyway, I'm at a select board meeting and they needed an alternate and nobody raised their hand. So I did. And here I am. So just here to pitch in, step up and learn a lot and maybe be useful, if not right away, at some point.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you for participating. That's always good that we get folks in town to participate, so thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of our January 23rd meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at them and study them and read them and enjoy them?
They're great.
Right?
They were great. Fantastic.
So I will accept a motion to accept the minutes of January 23rd, 2025. So moved. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Thank you. All right. Continued public hearings. We have 165 South Main Street. That was an application for a special permit and site plan approval for 0 South Main Street and a modification of the 2017 special permit and site plan approval for 165 South Main Street. And the applicant is proposing to combine 2 parcels and create an outdoor storage area. Do we have anyone here?
Good evening. Jill Mann here on behalf of the applicant in connection with the modification to 165 and then the additional permit, as you said, for 0 South Main Street. The petition was originally filed just by Ronnie's Landscaping and ended up being joined, if you will, by the owner for purposes of making a lot more modifications to the property, which would go far beyond what, a renter, if for lack of a better term, could possibly agree to. So we here representing both the owner and the applicant, Ronnie's. Here with me this evening is Craig Marchionda from Marchionda Associates. He is the civil engineer that actually designed the stormwater management system and the layout for the particular property. Is it possible to, we can actually put it up? Yeah, I think sometimes easier for the board to see it there, but.
Here if we need it.
So this project took a long time to get completed because we were trying to figure out how to actually accomplish all of the stormwater management that was necessary. We did appear at your last hearing, and Mr. Renault had some comments relative to the stormwater management plan that Mr. Marchionda attempted to respond to and then deliver or apply. In addition to that, we did want to meet with the Fuller Pond residents because they're obviously our direct abutter and they abut us not only on the driveway portion but the rear. Their garden abuts the next property over, but they were affected by the prior user of that property. So we wanted to make sure they felt comfortable and had met with them and agreed on certain aspects of the site plan and certain conditions, if you will. And those are reflected, and we can go through those as well. So if I may, I think it's page 4. My glasses, I'm blind. Yes, actually, if you wouldn't mind, we can go through Mr. Renault's comments relative to storm after, but maybe we just did an overview of page 5. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I should know my page numbers. Oh, so maybe it's 3. I don't know which one. Page 3? Here we go. Yes. Thank you. So on page 3, we actually go through some of the...
Could you come back to the mic, Counselor, so folks can hear?
Oh, it doesn't magnify, but for for
TV
Can you
audience,
not hear me?
please.
For the TV audience.
Your TV famous.
The TVs can hear us?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
So the property had a lot of things, for lack of a better term, done to it without any approval and site plan approval. So what this plan is showing is what the changes are, what aspects were permitted, which weren't, and how we actually removed pavement, added additional green space, removed a couple of parking spaces that simply weren't necessary, and then expanded the rear portion of the property to accommodate some of the outdoor storage. So that's all shown on this plan, and you can see a lot of the property is still going to be retained as gravel, because all they're going to do is park some equipment on it there, and they will have storage of mulch, but no storage of any salt. And I actually did include that in that draft decision to make sure that that was a condition. What we had discussed with Fuller Pond were the following. If you can see those arborvitae that are located along the Fuller Pond Road, we agreed to put in 6 to 7 foot arborvitae in that area on their side because it was better protection from them. In addition to that, we agreed to do some repairs to the fencing. And if you can see, I can't. Yes, there you go. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. So all along the fence line and the property line, you can see where there's a planting bed. That this is the most recent set of plans. This is the 10-foot line. No, because I don't see the other, maybe she skipped a page. That's why if you go back to the other page, it'll still show it. Yes, there we go. Oops.
Sorry.
I know, it's hard with those things. It's still the other page, the one before it.
All right.
There you go. So you can see where they have indications of landscaping. So what our agreement was from the property line for 10 feet, we would install a planting bed and we wouldn't have any activity in that area. So we proposed a planting bed there. And then 10 feet beyond that, so 20 feet from the property line, that's called the limited height area. I guess what had been going on with the prior user of the property is they would take their vehicles and they would put the real tall ones very close to the fence so that all you could do is see it when you drove in and out. So we agreed to push that and have it be a 20-foot area so you have limited height. You can't park anything tall in that area, anything above 15 feet in that area. In addition, anything on the side of the existing structure is a limited storage area. Again, can't be tall objects. In addition to that, there can't be any storage of any kind of salts. That was an agreement, and that was in the condition. And then what also was asked by Mr. Fitzpatrick, and I think by this board at our last hearing, is how are you going to actually store any materials on site? So then we proposed an area where there'll be the concrete blocks to basically quadrant off an area that will have material storage. And the entire storage area is actually encircled by boulders so that there can't be any, growing of the storage area. So it is what it is, and the boulders delineate those areas as well. And that really is all of the modifications that were done. One of the other conditions that I had discussed with Mr. Fitzpatrick was, and I think this board is particularly sensitive to this, when you have non-conforming lots, smaller lots, and people will use both of them in one particular use and then try to separate them out and keep them as separate and then use them as two separate properties and two separate nonconformities. So what Mr. Fitzpatrick asked us to do is to actually reference in this decision that they will be combined for zoning purposes and for title purposes, and that again is in that decision. Okay, I think I've hit on all of those points. If I may, I'm going to ask Craig.
Can I ask you a question just on the agreement piece? So I thought that they were talking a lot about fence replacements and all that stuff at the last one, but there's nothing in the agreement here that says what you're doing. It just says that they agree with you. I don't see anything on
I'm
what
sorry.
you guys are doing.
So what ended up happening was they wanted a lot of the fence replaced. So what we agreed to is they buy the materials and then we'll install them as they see fit.
Can we just hang on for a second?
All right.
So, first of all, before we get any further, both Caroline and I were not at the last meeting. We both have filed Mullen reports. I have watched the video recording
I have as well.
twice, most recently today, which is why, Bill, your point right now about there were several things that were discussed at that meeting. One had to do with height restrictions. One had to do with the replacement of the fence. I believe the folks at Fuller Pond had agreed to share that cost, 50% of that cost. So again, is that, I don't think that's what we're seeing in the document.
It's
And
actually
then
a
I think the
little
last
better, yeah.
big thing is to hear from Mr. Marchanda, because I think the elephant in the room is the drainage.
Of course.
Right? So we need to talk about that and understand that. So,
So the agreement with Fuller Pond is actually not 50%, because I think it wasn't as favorable. So the agreement was actually, they buy the materials, we do the installations.
Okay.
That's.
that might be what's in the agreement now. What was discussed at the meeting was.
Yes,
they-
it was
They
different
would cover
because-
50% of the cost.
Right, yeah, they wanted, we went back to them. This was better for us and better for them.
Okay.
So if I may, your turn.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Craig Marchanda, Marchanda and Associates. We're the engineers representing the applicant here. So we designed a stormwater management system to, infiltrate and handle all of the extra runoff generated by the unauthorized paving on this property by the previous tenant. Since we were here last time, about a month ago, we actually further reduced the existing pavement, particularly in the northwest corner in front of the kind of screen left right now. So as you pull in on your right-hand side, we eliminated all that existing pavement that we were trying to keep some. We decided it would be best just to remove it to help solve the problem. If you don't mind going to the next sheet, please. Thank you. And if you could pan a little bit right, please. Maybe down a little more if possible. Thank you. Perfect. So to the right side of the screen is our underground infiltration system, consisting of concrete chambers to collect and infiltrate the runoff. Most of it gets there via sheet flow to the double catch basins in the corner. And we created a berm around the edge of the property, or the edge of the paved areas. So all the runoff exiting the pavement will get diverted to the back and get into the ground instead of sheet flowing off property. We thought that was the most practical way to handle it without cutting up more pavement, putting structures in the pavement. And as I mentioned, since we were here last time, we did reduce the pavement further. We did not reduce the size of our system, and we end up getting better results with our analysis. We end up only showing an increase in peak rate of runoff of 0.02 of 1 CFS in the 10-year event only, and that's in the front subcatchment, the small subcatchment. The majority of the site drains off to the back, and we reduce the peak rate of runoff in all storm events for that subcatchment. So we think this is a good option to clean the site up and improve upon what the previous tenant did out there.
I'm going to defer immediately to my colleague to my left, Mr. Renault.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely addressed the issue about the system kind of, surcharging a bit, right? My question, though, one of the points I made was about having, truck storage and whatnot on just gravel, right? So that means all the oils and stuff are leaking through. I'd suggested, increasing the pavement in that area and then maybe putting in a small pond. At least that's what's in the meeting minutes and how I recall it. So I didn't see any response to that as to why we're not looking at that in any way.
I apologize, I didn't catch the part last time about concerns with leaks and what have you.
Yeah.
I recall you mentioned potentially adding some pavement around the catch basins because you're concerned about gravel getting into them.
Yeah.
So that's why we proposed 2 to 4 inch crushed stone that
Yeah.
can't get in.
Right.
To the, my
No,
client
I
didn't
appreciate
really
that.
wanna
I saw
move-
that. So, I mean, that
Yeah.
somewhat addresses part of the question, but.
Yeah, they are both deep sump hooded. And my client didn't really want to move the catch basins if not necessary, so that's why we left them when we thought putting crushed stone there would address the issue. Again, I apologize, I missed the part about the fluids and
Yeah.
having.
So, I mean, that's kind of where I was that was my big question, considering also, we had talked about the storage, because we didn't know what you were doing for storage either, so I was like, could that go through? So that was the question, and then, when you responded to the one pond, I was saying, well, if you just sheet it all off with pavement to like a pond at the, its surface level, then you could have one pond, and that would be probably cheaper for your client, if you paved a small section and didn't have to put in all those chambers.
Yeah, he
So
didn't.
I thought it was actually a pretty good cost benefit for your client, but.
Yeah, traditionally I would go with a surface pond as well as my first move. And I don't know if you guys are aware, there was another engineer on this job before me for a different firm, and they proposed a surface pond, and my client didn't like that, and he brought us on board. He prefers the underground stuff, He wants to have more of his landscape available for use potentially, or just, he thought this would be a way to keep the system smaller and reserve more of the land for, nothing planned now, but you never know what's going to come up. So he always favors these underground systems.
So to expand a little bit on Mr. Arnault's comments, in reviewing the meeting from last time, the question came up, what are you going to be storing there? And I think dump trucks and maybe some dump trucks with plows, if that happens to be the case, salt. There was some discussions on, are we going to cover the salt, which we should. I'm more concerned about equipment being stored there and drippings, oil drippings, hydraulic fluid drippings, that sort of stuff. So how are we capturing that in the event that happens?
Well, just to circle back a bit on the salt, we're not allowing any salt storage on the property. It did come up the last meeting, and since we've addressed that.
Okay. Let's talk about oil and hydraulic fluid and those kinds of things.
Sure. I mean, this system is very similar to systems you'd have everywhere else. The only way to get it into the catch basins would be to pave. I mean, realistically speaking, if it leaches into the gravel, I can't get it into the catch basins through the deep sump, the hood, and the water quality unit. So, as mentioned, I didn't catch that component last time. I missed it.
Yeah, I may have glossed over it. I think I might have just said about equipment storage and it'd be better on pavement or something. I might not have talked about the fluids. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's okay. I thought you were mostly referring to getting gravel in the catch basins, and I agree with you. I generally don't put them in gravel either, but that's what we're trying to go for. So there's, in terms of, we could either, if we restrict the storing of vehicles onto the paved areas, that's not going to solve the issue because the water's going to run that off through the gravel. So it would have to provide direct access from paved surfaces where the vehicles are stored to the catch basins.
And those catch basins, where are they going?
In the low point we created in the back, and there's a berm right behind it. So that way, that creates the low point almost like a pond to make sure all the water gets in the catch basins and into the ground.
And you mentioned deep sump catch basins, right?
Yes, they're both deep sump, 4-foot sumps.
Hoods, they have
with
hoods in them?
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, my concern is having trucks parked there and if they drip oil. And granted, catch basins with hoods are great unless it's a dry season and everything's drains down. And then the first flush is whatever's floating on the top, and that goes right out, right?
Right.
So I have a little bit of a concern with that. And again, Mr. Arnault is our resident drainage expert on the board here, so I would defer somewhat to him. But I do know we've had other projects before us that included storage, whatever that storage might be, including trucks, equipment, heavy equipment. I mean, are they going to, dump trucks are one thing, are we going to have like a backhoe park back there perhaps, right? So there's going to be all of that kind of equipment that generally can drip, right? I just want to feel comfortable that we're collecting whatever that is and dealing with it properly. So I'll defer to the other members right now. Ann, comments?
Is there signage? Is that, are you going to use the same sign that's there? Or what are you
Existing
doing?
signage.
I can't hear you. What?
There's existing signage
Right.
in front of the site. Yeah,
Do you guys stick with that same one, not change it?
correct.
Give us what it looks like? I mean, the one I'm looking at, the old one is just like a plywood board on a metal frame.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially just what's there now. There's no request to change. And it meets the requirements. They're not doing anything different.
And this is what it
Carolyn.
is right here.
Questions, comments?
Nothing specific, no, I think this is a pretty good.
Are you landscaping that, I'm sorry, Carolyn.
No, go
Are you
ahead.
landscaping that bare front strip that's just dirt right now? Or that front part?
It's all paved, isn't it?
So there, we're going.
To the left of the sign. Along the road.
Between the sign and the road?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Google shot of it, it's just like bare lawn, earth, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just bare. They weren't proposing to add additional plantings, no.
Plant grass, anything?
I thought there was grass there, no?
If the grass is dead, I'm sure they'd have no issue.
Everything, it just bare
planting
dirt here.
grass.
Is there bare dirt?
I haven't been out there in months, but it's,
It
I
needs
thought
to
it
look a
was
little better,
and we wouldn't have a problem planting grass if it's died. or-
minimum. There should be something there.
Yeah, because we are actually, so we're filling in area, so they're going to bring materials on.
Right.
And honestly, the guy who's using the property is a landscaper, so I think that we can amend the landscaping.
I mean, I think this is a vast improvement from the current condition of the property, so.
Member Richards,
Am I a member tonight? Not.
you can ask questions, you just don't vote.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything.
Okay. Another question too, in terms of, will there be dumpsters and roll-offs
Not that I'm aware
as
of.
part of this storage stuff?
There's an on-site dumpster, but no rental of dumpsters, no.
Okay.
Just one in the enclosure.
Because again, there's another project that was before us that has equipment storage, and there's dumpsters stored there now with, and the side of the dumpster says, Joe's Trash, right? So we don't want to make sure that there's any of that.
Yeah, no, there's.
We just
there's
have one in the
nothing.
enclosure behind the garage.
Right here, there's a fence right up next to the garage.
Okay. There was also at the last meeting some discussion about snow storage and where you're gonna, and in making sure that we're not impeding sight distance coming out of the driveway. Has that been
Yes.
addressed?
Yep. Yeah, we actually, it's actually deceiving on this plan because the intersection of Fuller Pond Road goes beyond the kind of the viewport. And the travel lane is way further left on the plan than you'd think by looking at this. But just to avoid any possible concerns, we removed that entire snow storage area from the front. Made the one, added a little area to the one in the back. So there'll be no snow storage in that front corner that was brought up last time, the northwest corner.
Okay. Bill, any final thoughts on the drainage?
Yeah, I still think the pavement should have been addressed,
Okay.
but I'm one vote, so. I mean, I think it's not an increase in cost if you did surface pond, but if your client doesn't want to do it, I mean,
I think it'd be cheaper, but.
I think it's
Yes.
cheaper for him, so I don't know why he wouldn't have taken it, but.
Yeah, originally it was proposed by the other engineers, kind of to the top side of the plan, on that side of the property.
Right.
And he
I mean,
did not
that's-
like that, so.
That's kind of what I would have done.
So, Mr. Reynolds, we never brought up to our client anything about paving more,
Yeah.
the gravel. So if anything, we would just have to go back to ask. We're not trying to avoid the issue. We really never brought it up.
Are they not here, Counselor?
No.
He's traveling.
Yeah, happens.
I have the same concerns.
So,
So there's two votes.
I don't-
Do you wanna-
I think Roland would be fine.
do you want to continue it and then see if they want to change it, or do
I
you
mean,
want to?
what, paving it?
I don't think he would mind. I mean, it's,
My question would be, is then the stormwater sufficient when you pave?
just a paved between the water, or between the edge of the existing pavement and the catch basins is what we're after.
Yeah, I mean, it's all gravel now, I mean, it's essentially impervious, right? So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like a
from my
96,
perspective, from my perspective, I mean, it's
Okay, I didn't know
it's
if you
sheeting off, it's not
needed, if you
really-
needed to see another plan with it. If you
I would-
don't,
I mean, I think you can condition it, right? for
that's
the-
my,
for the
yeah,
version.
we could easily do that. I thought that, I misunderstood what the actual question was going to be, but yes, we can condition this and say that we will pave the areas, and you're certain of, what paved areas they want?
Yeah, just
Gonna
anywhere.
pave the section
Okay, I just want to
below
make
the
sure.
gravel, right? So it's a small section.
You good with that?
Yeah, and I can certainly send a markup for review. That's fine, too.
Well, it'd be conditioned, so then you'd send it, and as long as it meets the condition, then that would be fine.
Yep. Can do that.
Because we also
Prior
have,
to the issuing of a permit, a building permit, right?
I didn't hear you.
That condition would have to be met and approved prior to issuing a building permit.
Absolutely. And we also, just so you know, is we needed to add a note to the plan, just to say those arborvitae are 6 to 7 feet. And we hadn't done that, and I have to bring that up too. So we
I
were
mean,
going to
if
submit
you
to
cover
you.
that issue, then I'm fine, but I mean, I think he's spending extra money than he needs to, but, with the underground chambers, but, hey,
We agree.
feel free to spend your money,
No, okay, we could condition it upon the expansion of the gravelled area, and then, as I indicated, the labeling of the trees. And if you want, I can come back to you with a note regarding the fencing, because it isn't on the plan. We just agreed to it.
Okay.
So my last thing is, I'm presuming this is not a change in use?
Nope,
Okay, so there was no interaction with Mass DOT
no, none,
or required?
no.
None required, okay. All right, is there anyone here from the public that has any question or comment on this particular application? Don't be afraid. All right, hearing none. Is the board okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. And we usually leave this to Mr. Hartwell, so I'll give it a shot. All right. Based on the evidence provided and the testimony presented during the public hearing pursuant to.
You'll take a motion.
Huh?
You'll
Yeah.
take a
You
have to make a
motion
motion.
to.
You'll accept a motion.
I'll accept the
There you
motion.
go.
Well, I wasn't there yet.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
getting to this part. Then right here is when I say I'll accept the motion.
Okay. Sure.
The board determined that the redevelopment of the property and expansion of the yard represents the most advantageous use of the property, and that the project and its design features protect the legitimate interests of adjoining property owners and provides benefits to the town and the neighborhood, and far outweighs the adverse effects. In support of the board's conclusion, I'll accept a motion of the following findings. The site plan application and other submittals satisfy the submittal requirements of Section 9.5 and 9.4 of the bylaws. The redevelopment of the property will support the expansion of an existing business. The improvements of the property provide visitors, occupants, and first responders adequate space to enter, exit, and navigate safely through the property. There will be no nuisance or serious hazards to vehicles or pedestrians. As demonstrated by the plans, the site layout properly considers lighting requirements and impacts on abutters, signage, landscaping, stormwater, and drainage improvements, and will provide for overall site improvements are sufficient to address the additional improvements to the yard. The redevelopment of the property is consistent with other properties located along Route 114. The project includes installation of compliant stormwater management systems that will ensure the stormwater will be treated and will be infiltrated. The assessed value of the property will increase with the redevelopment and therefore will generate additional tax revenue for the town. And I'll accept that motion.
So moved.
So moved. I have a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Based on the aforementioned findings, the board's and the board's authority to grant such relief under 9.4 of the bylaws, I'll accept a motion to grant the modification to the 2018 approval to allow the expansion of the yard at 165 South Main Street. That would be I'll accept that motion.
Yeah, I'll make it.
Huh?
Yeah, I'll make that.
Okay, all right. Motion made by Mr. Renault, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, okay. And to that, existing approval is subject to compliance with the general conditions attached hereto as Attachment A, and special conditions attached hereto as Exhibit B, together with those conditions.
And including the condition, how do you want to word it, Jill?
Yep, including the condition that the pavement be expanded pursuant to the conversation between Mr. Renault and Mr. Marchionda, which will be reflected on the plans.
Yep.
And a note on the plans that the arborvitae to be installed are 6 to 7 footers, and a note on the plan regarding the agreement between Fuller Pond and the owner relative to the fence.
Okay, so
So moved.
and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Based on the aforementioned findings and the board's authority to grant relief under 9.4 of the bylaws, I'll accept a motion to grant the special permit to allow sections of 0 South Main Street, as delineated on the site plan, to be used for outdoor storage and equipment.
So moved.
Motion made, and
I'll second.
do I have a second? Okay, pursuant to 9.4 and 3.1.2 and Table of Regulations, C, Commercial 20, contract and equipment storage yard to approve of the use at 0 South Main Street as contractor offices and equipment and material storage, subject to compliance. We have that motion made by Mr. Renault, seconded by Karen. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. And lastly, based on the aforementioned findings and the board's authority to grant such relief under 9.5 of the bylaws, I'll accept a motion and a second. Let's see, to approve the site plan, subject to the following conditions, although I think we already mentioned those. Are there any additional conditions?
It's the same conditions, right? We just had the same conditions from the previous.
From the previous one, right?
I'd
Okay.
also like to see some landscaping.
May
out front.
did you want us to put
Yeah.
in enhancement of the landscape?
Please.
Enhancement of the
We should have put
landscaping?
the enhancement of the landscaping.
Stick it in this one.
Pardon?
Let's stick it in
Yeah,
this one.
I mean, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Okay. Any other conditions?
No.
Besides our general conditions? Hearing none. I'll accept that motion.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 So moved.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Good luck.
I will revise the decision, send it back, and then update the plans and send them back.
Great.
So even before you sign it, you can see all those things.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, our new public hearings, 223 Maple Street. Madam Clerk,
Oh, it looks like it's being continued.
we have to open it.
We have to
Yep.
open and continue.
I
right?
understand it. We will do that, I'm just saying, it's being continued.
How dare you?
Thank you, Bill. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 11, the Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 27th at 7 PM at Fuller Meadow on the application for Middleton Management LLC for site plan approval. Applicant is proposing a modification for an addition at 223 Maple Street, found on Assessor's Map 19, Parcel 12, plans on file with the town clerk. I'm assuming the abutters have been notified.
Is there anyone here?
Good evening, Jill Mann. We're seeking a continuance because one of our requests are to actually reduce the number of parking spaces to provide for better site circulation, but we cannot do that until we amend our liquor license application. So I have the hearing, I just got the date, it's April 1, so instead of continuing to March, if it will please the board to continue to April's meeting.
Okay.
What's the date on that, Anna? Do you know?
April. I can look it up. What are we, are we the 4th? Is it the 4th? We're the 4th.
What Thursday?
Thursday?
What is that?
23rd, April
23rd?
23rd. Yeah.
23rd.
Do we need to make a motion to open the hearing?
All right.
The
I'll accept the motion to continue the public hearing.
Did we
The
open the
23rd
public-
is
Did
a
we open the
Wednesday.
public hearing?
I'm
No.
sorry, it's the
24th.
Thank
She
you.
just read the notice. Did we open the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
just did.
I missed it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Don't mind.
Let's have that discussion.
I'll make-
She read it, and then I said, do we have somebody here? And we had someone, and they requested to continue.
Sounds
so.
good. All right.
So,
We vote to open.
did we check the date? Let me check.
It's the 24th.
The 24th.
I do want to just make
Okay.
sure it's clear that that is school vacation week, and so you could I think you only, how many people do you need for that? I don't know. I'll be away. I don't know about you.
I'll be away too. Yeah.
probably
Site
away.
plan approval, it's
Craig may bite.
It's
me.
two.
So we may have to
Continue it.
change
Yeah.
that meeting
Yep,
date.
absolutely.
It may be not just for you, for others as well. All right.
Yeah, understood.
But in the event, right, I'll accept the motion that we continue the public hearing for 223 Maple Street to our April meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
And we'll have a second. Motion made and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So
Aye.
moved. See you in April.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time. Good night.
All right. Next up, 2 Stevens Street, application for a special permit at 2 Stevens Avenue. Sorry, I said Stevens Street. Madam Clerk.
The zoning board of appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 27th at 7 PM at Fuller Meadows School. On the application of Gilberto Bocanelli for a special permit, the applicant is proposing a renovation and addition on a non-conforming lot at 2 Stevens Ave, found on Assessor's Map 29, Parcel 38, plans on file with the town clerk. Hopefully, abutters have been notified.
Okay, do we have anyone here? Come on up.
So I actually live in the neighborhood.
What's that?
I live in the neighborhood, but he's about 2,000 feet away, if not more. Okay, and I don't really know him.
You're a
so-
direct abutter, be one thing.
Yeah.
You're not
making sure.
even, are you even a butter to an abutter?
No, like a,
My name is Gilberto. We bought the property November 6th last year. And we tried to renovate it to have the family living there. So it's going to be our private home. So we're going to enjoy the life in there. And we're going to do addition to fit all the family. And I think we provide pretty much all the paperwork you guys asking for. And it's going to be our home. Does anybody have a question?
Thank you. Annie, you want to offer anything before we get into the discussion? I have your notes here, but. was there any-
Yeah, a couple notes. One thing that I wanted to say, we had a conversation at the planning board about this, and they just wanted to double check that the septic was sufficient for the proposed improvements. And so our public health director did confirm that the existing septic is sufficient for the proposed renovation. And then the other note that I wanted to share with the board for your review is the application, the plot plan was updated after the application was submitted. And so the numbers on setbacks and property dimensions are correct on the plot plan. They don't match what's in the application. So I just wanted to put that out for clarity. Please go by the numbers that are on the plot plan.
Okay.
And that would be revised and included with the application?
Correct. It has been.
Has
It's the
been.
one that you all have.
Okay.
But I didn't ask them to update the application form following that.
And can you just describe a little bit what your renovations are going to be? What are you planning to do?
Yes, we're gonna, the house right now is only 2 bedrooms, and we're gonna raise another floor and add a garage. And one of the bedrooms, our bedroom is gonna be on top of the garage. So it's gonna be an addition and the second floor on a proposal plan.
And how many bedrooms are there now?
3 bedrooms because they have a kind of in-law. So the original house, so the main house has the back. It's kind of awkward.
Okay,
And we're gonna make it 4 bedrooms.
okay, all right. Members, Mr. Arnault?
I have no comments. No comments.
No comments.
Yeah.
Ann?
Was this a setback issue, Anna?
Total lot size, the lot is like 3,000 square feet below 40,000, which is the R1B, and then the side setback is very small to the property line.
But they're
I think it's
increasing it on the other
6 or
side.
7 feet.
Yeah, but that side's not changing in the
Right,
plan.
correct.
Yeah, that part
That
is
won't
gonna stay
change.
the same height, so we're just gonna have to redo the roof because it's not right now.
Okay.
But that's gonna stay the way it is.
Okay.
So are we changing the outward look of the building too much, or, I'm
The-
just thinking of the neighbors?
Yeah, the change, is gonna change a lot, because we're gonna go up a floor.
Going up, right?
Yeah.
So are we blocking any neighbors, anybody?
No. It's a dead-end street, so we don't have much neighbors right there, and they okay with it. I talked to someone already. And they happy because it was a big mess on that lot, all trash, and we already cleaned the lot, and they are very happy.
Anything else?
Scott, have anything to say about this? Any notes from any of the boards? I don't have anything that I
No.
see.
No. Just the public
I
health.
mean, I
review.
think your comment about the septic and all that, I mean, the health department
Yeah, health
is gonna
department.
have to weigh in on that, not necessarily us.
Is that a condition?
So I have the approval from the health department and the Title V inspector. I'm sorry, I
Did you say an
didn't.
approval?
Yeah, so they've already reviewed it, and they have said that the existing septic is sufficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Carolyn? Nothing?
No,
Linda?
nothing major.
Is the number of bedrooms changing
Yes,
from what to what?
it's 3 because the in-law, and there's gonna be 4.
Okay. And is the in-law a separate dwelling unit?
Yes, they have a separate door for that, so it's gonna be all together now, so that's
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be
the
like a
living
big living room.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're eliminating the in-law?
You're getting
Oh,
rid
yeah,
of
we
it.
eliminated
Yeah.
the in-laws.
Eliminating
Yeah,
that.
what is
Okay.
there now will be combined,
is
like,
nice.
will be just a
There
big
you go.
living room.
Okay.
You don't have family that's gonna wanna come live there with you? Okay.
Gonna make sure.
Middle of nowhere.
Is there anyone here from the public that has any question or comment on this application? Let's go to, ma'am, why don't you go first? Name and address, please.
Do I go here?
Yeah, and the mic would be great, thank you.
Right, good night.
Cheryl Holland, 2 Weaver Avenue. First, I'd like to welcome you to the neighborhood. I haven't met you yet. I don't know if the board members know, but the biggest problem is we have 6 houses and a 7th house actually on the corner. It is a one-way in to approach all these semi-homes. It is a dirt road coming in on Haynes, and it's a dirt road going up the hill, which is called Stevens. Their home would be facing Stevens, I imagine. Okay, I haven't seen any of the plans. My biggest concern is not that they're non-conforming. My biggest concern is what parameters are going to establish that the vehicles during the construction phase don't block the access, because literally we have mail deliveries, we've had moving trucks, we've had a propane truck, I had oil delivery, and none of these vehicles can come in and out as it stands. And if the construction vehicles are tearing up this dirt road, they're privately owned, which means all of the neighbors have to produce a better road after the construction vehicles with all their lumber and their heavy weight coming in. It's going to tear up the road. So what provisions are going to be made for those vehicles to only be able to park on the property to keep the lines open? And also, they can't park on any of the roads coming in because they're not double pass. There's an area off a beach where the owners have left a little bit of a turnaround so 2 cars can pass. And my husband and I have a property, we have a septic system directly across from your house where we leave a turnaround for them to be able, any truck to come up there. If they don't back up the hill, they have that turnaround. So nobody, the contractors or anybody visiting can park on those roads because it would, cut off the access to all the homes in that area.
Is that a public way, or is it a private?
No, they're all
way.
privately
No, it's private
owned.
ways down there, yeah. I mean,
So-
she's right. I mean, I go trick-or-treating down there, so.
Yep.
But the.
No one comes up to my house because they don't want to walk up a dirt road, but.
Well, what do you give out?
What's that?
You just giving those little candy bars? or you
No,
give big-
I give out huge candy
And let's
bars and
face it,
$5
If you
bills
give
for
big candy
anybody
bars,
that
wouldn't we all go?
I know.
Of course.
That's why we go, so.
The
no,
kids that come up get very well rewarded, I'll say that,
Yeah,
so.
no, we can condition that. I mean, so
Yeah.
that the park, any construction vehicles can have to park on the lot.
They have to park on
Yeah,
the
we can do that.
property,
That's,
yeah.
that's a reasonable ask,
The lot is
especially in this
pretty big,
situation.
So
Right.
we have a plenty space right there for the truck.
And are you changing,
around.
like your driveway is very close to the neighbors next to you? Are you changing the drive coming in? Because you're gonna have a hard time turning there as well.
The truck's probably gonna come, they have it's not a driveway right now, but there is a way
Right,
on
right.
the end of the lot right there.
At the bottom, at the
Exactly,
corner.
yeah.
And that's gonna stay,
That's gonna stay for the construction,
right.
but that's gonna be eliminated after construction because when I do the,
plan for the,
yeah.
So you
for the
will
yard.
park where the driveway is now?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
no
it's,
cars will stay on the street.
we
Yeah,
can't
we don't have
widen the
space.
road,
Oh,
so
no,
my
yeah.
concern, like I said, how long is the construction gonna be?
About 6 months.
Yeah.
Maybe over 6 months.
Okay. And you're gonna start this summer?
As
Or
soon as I got the
spring?
permit.
Yeah, okay. So again, as long as
Point
they stay
taken.
off
Yeah,
the
we'll-
roads,
we
and
can-
what
we can-
happens after the roads if they're beaten up, because
We-
the town's not gonna take care of
We
it?
can condition that. The trucks that are going up there, I mean, I don't think there's
They're just gonna drive by and park on the
there's
property.
huge tractor trailers and things like that.
Well,
so-
they gotta bring the wood and stuff. I mean, there's gonna be some, they gotta bring the wood and offload
Yeah,
all that
it's-
stuff. They gotta do that
Dropping
stuff.
off-
They have to, I
necessarily
mean, we
gonna
all
dig up-
understand that, it's just,
But
I
no.
just don't want them on the roads, because we're gonna have a
No,
lot
they
of
can
problems.
park on the road, yeah.
Just in the interest of time, we,
Yeah.
thank you, and we'll condition that, and that's all good. And sir, you had a comment or a question.
I have a couple questions. Pike, welcome. I'm also a neighbor. I share a lot of the
What's your
same
name?
concerns.
Name and
Matthew
address.
Pellerine, and I live at 3 Haynes Ave.
Okay?
And
Nice,
welcome to the
we try to
neighborhood.
get to the neighbors with all the snow.
Yeah.
And we keep waiting for a better weather to come over.
It's okay.
And now is the
So,
proper
yeah,
time.
we saw
It's a
some
great
of them, but not all of
neighborhood.
them.
I'm sure
So,
you'll love it.
you guys can do that out later, but
All right,
let's
so
get
I was
to
wondering,
it.
could you actually pull up the stormwater plan? My concern is with the driveway, and this is after the fact, after construction. I went through the plans pretty thoroughly, and I didn't see like the proposed driveway. And the main reason I bring this up is because if you look at this,
Just a second. Thank
yeah,
you.
you'll be able to see on the contours that everything's kind of on a hill in that area. And like they were explaining, you go up the hill, and I'm at the bottom of the hill, and there's water issues. We don't have water issues, but we want to prevent future ones. We worked pretty hard at getting the area in a position where water just goes right down the hill and right past our house there's like almost little water area behind. And so my concern is, let me pull it up, I'll show you. The only mention of the driveway on the plans is,
So are we increasing the impervious area of the property?
Yeah.
You're going up, right? And
Yes.
you're putting on the garage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have the stormwater. We're gonna put it up there.
Is this
Prevention.
off River
there
Street?
we go.
Where are you?
It's off of
Stevens.
Park,
Two
kind of off
Stevens.
of Park.
Where- What's it off of? What street?
Park Avenue.
Park Avenue?
Yeah.
Is this the one you're looking at?
Hop over here real quick. So the existing gravel driveway to remain, they showed this. But, I mean, I assume you're probably gonna put a paved driveway in, correct?
There is two driveways on that area now, but that's, yeah, we have the driveway is kind of over here right now.
Yes. Well,
So, do we have an entrance right here, but that is on dirt, I think they just make right there, so
Yeah.
they just drive over here because it's always moving. Yeah, but the driveway is gonna stay right here, and we have another driveway
Right there. Your hand.
somewhere in here,
In front of the house.
yeah, in front of the house.
now, so so you're gonna pave the driveway? I just asked because it says existing gravel to remain. Just, is it gonna be a paved driveway or no?
It is right now, it's not a gravel right now. If you go there, it's paved, so it's very old, but it's paved,
Okay.
yeah.
I guess I just wanted to get some clarification on where the driveway is it gonna be off of Haynes, is it gonna be off of Stevens? Where
It's
on
gonna be off of
Stevens?
Stevens, yes.
And then how the water will, if it's gonna be off of Stevens, just I don't know, the
Well,
water.
the driveway is going to be here.
Yeah.
We have over 30 feet over here, so this is gonna be
Okay.
all grass. I don't think any water is gonna go to the street
Yeah.
from there, you know? And for the roof, we have the stormwater plan. I think this is the old plan, right now it's somewhere in here. Is that
Okay.
right?
Did you want to see the
Space,
plot? The plot plan, I think, has the driveways.
Yeah, the plot plan.
It's a
has
little
it.
bit easier to see.
Bill, do you have any comment on this?
We'll wait until he shows up.
Yes. Yeah, as you can see, we have like 37 feet. No, I don't think this is the setback. They don't have setback to the driveway. But from here to here is a long way. This is gonna be all grass right here. And I don't think the water is gonna go through all the way down to the street. Okay.
So,
Are you removing that driveway?
I mean, I could.
No, this and this is gonna stay. So here, it's not a driveway, but people driving here, they used to drive in here.
I did.
Yeah, you know, so we're gonna, probably the truck is gonna come here doing construction, and, or here, so it doesn't matter, because it's, here, the asphalt start here to this way, right? This, we don't have asphalt. Yeah. The trucks can use both, because it's all dirt streets anyway,
For now.
for now. Yeah, I think that the streets are gonna stay the same.
I want to try and keep this in some sense of order, because we got like a couple of conversations going on.
Yep.
So,
No, I think it comes around the side.
Bill, do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, so I think what he's saying is that you're gonna have to connect your driveway to your garage, right? I mean, that's.
Yes, yes.
I'm assuming that's
I
your
don't know why
point.
they did far further away like that, but,
Right,
it
so-
is right now.
So what I'm hearing is you'd like to see some grading that shows that you're not gonna get flooded out, right? That's basically in a nutshell?
Yeah, I guess the proposed driveway. Yeah,
Okay.
and that, what you just stated.
Yep, we can, all that stuff, yeah. So we can condition that they provide a grading plan that shows it doesn't flood you out. So as part of the building, the code, they can't do that. So the building commissioner can review that at his stage. I mean, it's such a small one, we don't really go to usually full drainage reports for single-family homes, honestly. And they're already putting in, little Cultec systems and stuff. So they can, worst-case scenario, if there's a problem, they can always pipe it to that. So, I mean, Scott can review that as part of his building permit review. We'll just condition it so that he has to. All right? Does that sound good? Okay.
Anyone else have any question or comment on this? Hearing none. Here I go again. I'm getting better at it. Let's see. The special permit shall be granted by the special permit granting authority unless otherwise specified. and upon written determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impact to the town and/or the neighborhood, in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relationship to the site. In addition, any specific factors that may be set forth in the bylaw, the determination shall include consideration of each of the followings. I will accept the motion to accept the following findings. The community needs which are served by the proposal, the project improves the aesthetics of the property and increases the property value, which increases the tax base for the town. Traffic and pedestrian flow and safety, including parking and loading, there is ample off-street parking on the property. The renovation will not alter existing access points or introduce features that would disrupt traffic patterns. Adequacy of utilities and other public services. The proposed addition does not depend on existing public sewer service. The existing private septic system is sufficient for the proposed renovations. The neighborhood character. The addition and renovation does not impact the existing neighborhood character. And impacts on the natural environment. Measures will be taken to minimize waste and environmental disturbances during construction. Potential economic and fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base, and employment, is a minimal impact on town services, positive effect on property value, and increase in the tax base. That would be a so moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
And that would be a second. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Aye, all right. Based on those findings and the evidence presented, I'll accept the motion to grant the special permit with the following conditions. And the following, with general conditions, our general conditions and the following special conditions. That would be,
Prior to building permit, the plot plan shall be updated to show the proposed driveway with appropriate grading to ensure stormwater is not directed towards abutting properties. And second, that no construction vehicles will be allowed to park on, is it Stevens Ave, Street, Road? Avenue, Stevens Avenue, during construction.
okay?
As well as Haynes.
Oh, and Haynes, okay, yep, sure, we'll add Haynes.
Okay. All right.
Well, maybe we just say all construction vehicles need to park on the subject property.
Off-street.
Yeah, on the subject property or on
Okay.
off-street.
All right. We have a motion, and do we have a second?
Did you move that?
I didn't, but I did now.
Okay, I'll second.
You have a second. All right. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. When's Craig coming back?
I know, right?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So move. Good luck with your new home.
Thank you.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
All right. Moving along. Next up, 49 South Main Street, an application for modification to the 2024 special permit and site plan approval. The applicant is proposing adjustments to the parking lot layout and building sizes.
Thanks.
Do we have anyone here?
No? We have to open it.
We gotta open it.
We have to open it. Oh, this is a modification.
Thanks,
Excuse
Rich.
me.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, you're going to beat me up all night, or you're just going to be nice?
Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 27th at Fuller Meadow on the following application for Villabridge Acquisitions LLC for modification of the special permit and site plan approval. The applicant is proposing modifications to adjust parking lot layout and building sizes at 49 South Main Street, found on Assessor's Map 25, Parcel 65, plans on file with the town clerk.
Do we have someone here?
Yes, hi, Lars Onium from Villabridge Acquisitions. I also have with me Ed Bradford from TAT, available to answer questions if the board so asks. Just to follow up on what our application materials state and in follow-up to the permitting activities that wrapped up last summer. We have since that time signed a letter of intent with a full-service restaurant, and so wanted to circle back. As the board may recall, we had originally proposed to have a drive-through coffee shop at the southern standalone building, and that was not wanted by the community, so we abandoned the request for that use. But for purposes of expediency, we did not make any changes to the site plan at that time, anticipating something like this where a new user would show up and we could basically conform to what they're requesting as opposed to guessing twice and doing it all over again. So that restaurant, they are looking for, they want it to be in the southern building. We had originally hoped to have a restaurant in the northern building. And then also they're looking for a greater parking supply than the current site plan allowed. So we have put forth this modification to the site plan, which would allow for a greater parking supply, would get us up to 153 parking spaces. In order to accomplish that and to provide full-size double-loaded parking lanes and parking spaces, the special permit request would then be to request to reduce the landscape buffer between the retail project and the adjacent 40B project, which is currently approved at 4.5 feet. It would now taper from 2.5 feet to 0 feet, but as it tapers to 0 is when it also is the greatest landscape area on the 40B. We're not proposing to move the property lines simply because the added complexity is that's also where the zoning boundary is, and so we could move the property line, but that wouldn't really accomplish anything as it relates to complying with the zoning ordinance. So our thought was to just simply request for a modification to that special permit. As was mentioned, we are proposing to increase the size of the buildings. To remind the board, although we had about 18,800 square feet of space in what was approved last summer, the decision allowed for up to 20,000 square feet, and that's what we're requesting. We're essentially trying to find every way to compensate or make up for the lost revenue associated with a drive-through use to try to just make the project viable to move forward. The way that those buildings are bigger, the southern building is growing by about 500 square feet. It's shifted a little bit forward relative to the frontage of the northern building. The northern building, all the growth is occurring in the back. So basically just the storefronts are getting deeper, but it's the same looking building as what we had before the board previously. There are some other little refinements that are included, some changes in materials in certain locations. The window packages in the retail have gone from 11 feet to 10 feet, which is based on feedback of what happens when you're at 11 feet for wind loads on these window or the glazing assemblies. Little nits and gnats like that, but the spirit and the design is very much consistent with what we had brought before the board last summer.
So do you have a presentation that actually shows?
Yes,
the
I'm
change?
sorry, yes, yep. So this presentation, you'll see in the upper left corner says approved site plan with blue, and then the next page will be with green saying proposed. What we have done is taken the approved and proposed and do splices of the site so that you can compare readily, visually, what's changing. So if we could move to the next slide, please. You'll see on the top half the approved plan and the bottom half the approved plan. This is for the northern half of the site. And as you can see, there's 2 footnotes there. All we're doing is growing the building, again, in the back side of the building along the service lane, and reducing the loading associated. So we had a super sized loading area, and now we just have a standard size loading area, but otherwise, everything that presents to the public stays exactly the same.
Lars, can you go up
Yes.
and point that out for people who can't
Sure.
understand that or see that on the TV?
So you'll see here, if you just look at the way that the building jogs in the back, and you see that this is about 30 feet wide, and now it's about 60 feet wide. So that's how the building is these, we have it demised for theoretical tenants. So these 2 other tenants would just have more space, but again, it's just deeper back. Everything up front staying exactly the same. And then because you're doing that with the depth of the stores, so basically 2 more stores become 80 feet deep instead of 70 feet deep, it reduces the length of that loading dock area. So this goes down to, I believe it's 60 or 70 feet long, as opposed to this was, I think, 100 plus feet long. So that's the 2 differences on the north half of the site. If we could go to the next page, this is where you'll see more changes. So just to keep on that same theme, just to continue, again, you can see how the jog occurs just below the break line, and here you can see now we have that next storefront reaches to the back. And then the southern building, there's a couple of things. We have done a few things. TAT has worked really hard to make sure this building stays as interesting as possible. It's consistent with the previous design, but we tried to make sure we had a little more articulation occurring in the building so that if you might remember, the white barn projection felt a little more pronounced relative to the dark gray field. And again, Ed can talk you through all these things. The building's a little bit longer, and what that does is something we think is very nice, which is now, if you remember, the gable projects this way, and there's a gable projecting this way. This will create a little bit more of a framed moment, which we'll show you in the renderings, but we think it actually helps create more of a villagey feel, as opposed to, as you know, we've been trying to not have this feel like a strip center. So the building is a little bit longer. We're showing a patio, which I wanted to do, but it sounds like the tenant may not want to do that, simply because the septic system, you get charged for an outdoor seat that you can only use a few months a year, the same as a indoor seat that's year-round, and so they probably just want to have it all indoors, so that's TBD right now. And then you'll see the parking layout is quite different. We got rid of this whole drive-through lane, the double drive-through lane, and instead we're doing double-loaded parking. So we're holding the same 10-foot setback that's on this edge. And then, as I mentioned, the sidewalk landscaping buffer goes from the 4.5 feet we have here down to 2.5, which tapers to 0 feet here. Interestingly, that drive-through was so space intensive as it relates to pervious area. We're actually improving the open space by making this change. A small bit, just about, I think about 0.5% or so, but it's still an improvement. And then the other adjustment that results from this is that we are proposing to put the dumpster along this edge in order to, there's a few reasons for it, which I know we'll have a long discussion about tonight, but this seemed to be the most logical place with the factors that I'm considering. I know others disagree. But that's the overview of all the changes.
Thank you. Members, Mr. Renaud.
So you said you're greening up the site, right?
I'm sorry?
You're greening up the site, so there's a...
It's an increase in the open space, yes.
Yeah, your application didn't say that, though, so it was worded a little weird, so I just
Okay.
wanted to just confirm.
Yes, yep. From what I understand from Hancock, we're going from 25.5% open area to 26.1.
The only question I had was really on the parking lot. Now, the expanse of the parking lot, are all of those spaces the same? Are they all standard size?
Yes, they're all 9 by 18s.
Okay, is there any way to do like maybe some compacts so that you can get some green in that big, huge field of pavement, or maybe something in there? Because I think you had lighting and stuff in there last time, right?
We
Like in that
still
little
do
aisle?
have lighting. There still is there'll still be 2 light trees in the middle here.
Okay.
We could do green like grass, but we would not be able to do trees because there's a septic field underneath, so
Yeah,
we can't have
understood.
that
Yeah, I think we had that last
structure.
time, right? So, could you zoom in a little bit so I could just see that?
Sure.
That part
Thank you.
where the little green
Oh, no.
spots are?
Is this giving you enough, or?
So we have, these are full-size spaces, which is, I think, as most people know, a lot of times those compact spaces end up getting abused. People park in them anyway. And thus far, this is what the restaurant operator was focused on us delivering, because we obviously originally tried to propose compact spaces in order to not have to request this reduction in the landscape buffer. And, their concern was anything that can make it as palatable for people to come and go. Their big concern is the rollover between the first service and second service, and making sure there's enough convenient spaces for people to find a place to park as they're rotating in, so that there's enough supply there.
So are you right at the number of parking spaces required? You plus, minus, where are you?
We're at 153 with this layout.
And how many are required?
They're requiring 150.
150?
Yeah.
Well, they are, but we only
Yeah.
require like 110 or something, right?
Yeah.
I think it's something like that. 109, I believe, is the way it counts out according to our.
I mean, the only reason I say that is, can you afford to take 2 spaces out and make that like a little island or something that you could green up? I think that's where you're going with this.
Yeah, it's just a big expanse of pavement, but,
Yeah.
I mean, again, you're also, it is screened from everything, right? So, in theory, I guess.
I mean, I like the fact that where the drive-through was is all green now.
Oh, I dig that too, yeah, I think that's great. And now we don't have to get into the driveway discussion
Yeah.
again, right, the drive-through discussion again.
Carolyn, comments, questions?
Yeah, I mean, my main concern is basically that. It's just a big sea of paved,
Like it's a design thing,
impervious.
right?
It's just, it's kind of like what it, well, I'm sure this will look better than what it looks like now, but it's just paved, you know?
Yes.
That, you know, I mean, I understand the reasoning for doing that. Could you tell me, what is the, you probably said this, to the right of the trash? What is that?
That is a transformer.
Oh, okay.
Which we may or may not end up doing quite that way. So one of the things we've been talking about is whether or not we have to do this massive concrete C to put it in the middle of, or can we just put it in grass on a concrete pad? But that's what that is.
Okay.
Are you at liberty to say who the,
Unfortunately not, since so the steps in the process are letter of intent and then lease, and then I'd be able to disclose it. Basically, I need to do this and show them I can get them the spaces, because right now I can't, for them to want to get into the lease negotiation process, which I understand takes a few months.
I've got a couple more questions.
yep,
So, are all of these those are all handicap?
The ones along here?
There's- yeah.
4 out of the 5.
4 out of
So
5, okay.
based on ADA requirements, because of the volume of spaces
Yep.
that are provided in this section, we have to provide 4 spaces, one of which is a van.
Remind me, is there, yeah, in front of the other building, there's, yeah, okay.
Yes, yep.
And then you mentioned that you wanted to do the patio, it sounds like the restaurant is not interested in that.
As of right now, that's right, yeah.
What would that become?
Probably just grass and maybe some plantings.
Oh.
If you know, right now, it's assumed as part of our impervious area, so, you know, if that were to go away, it would increase the open space even a little bit more. But if they're not gonna use it, we may decide to build it anyway, just for the future optionality, but I just don't know. And I don't know, their initial reaction is, well, we want all the seats we can get, so if we have to get dinged for part of the year, we'll just put them all inside. But that may evolve as they study their market
so
opportunity.
forgive me, I should know
Sure.
this, but let's say, for example, nothing to do with the restaurant, could that remain a placemaking spot where people could just go sit outside and
Yes.
you could have tables and chairs
Yep.
there as well?
Yes, yep.
That's what I really like about it,
Okay.
is
Yeah,
that
me
it's
too.
got, you know,
So that would have nothing to do with them in terms of this
Correct.
extra cost. It's just part of the plaza's
Exactly.
placemaking.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
So in that case, I'm on board.
yeah.
So as long as it stays, I'm
As long
pretty
as it
adamant.
stays.
Yeah, as long as it stays, regardless of.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine
I
by
would
me. I
just
mean,
hate
it's
to see,
obviously
like-
better to just have it there as well in case, I mean, you guys know the restaurant business, they come and go and fail all the time. So, I mean, it could be that it's not good for the first group, but is good for the second group.
Right.
You know, I know other restaurants, they'll load up the inside during the winter months, and then they'll just reduce the seating inside and move some outside for the nicer, you know, it's, all that kind of stuff is very
Right.
Sure.
liquid.
And
Okay, no, I got
you're
more
not done,
questions still,
Carolyn?
Rich.
that's our fourth one
I
question.
know, I
Go
know.
ahead.
I wasn't planning on participating so intensely. So I noticed that the crosswalk was moved.
Yes.
Is there a reasoning for that?
2 things. It is a raised crosswalk
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So, as related to the board expressing concerns last summer about the volume of speed of
Mm-hmm.
people coming in, we thought doing a raised crosswalk would be a great way to just tamp down that right out of the gate. People know coming in, just slow down. We also thought that that would help support more sense of connectivity between the storefronts of the north building and this restaurant, especially because, again, the restaurant is focused on making sure people feel like they have ample parking opportunities when they come on a Saturday night. And so we just thought this was a great way to kind of address multiple concerns at once.
Yeah, yeah. My only concern in that is just because of, you know, human behavior. My concern is people. I would hope that that little that triangle of seating, that when people leave, that I don't. Is that enclosed at all?
It is enclosed because
Okay,
of
so they'll be
grading.
funneled
They have to go
towards the
through the
crosswalk.
storefront, that's
Oh,
right.
okay, perfect,
Yeah,
perfect.
it's hard to tell, but because the way the site grades, this patio
Right.
is fixed with the storefront inside, and so they have to go that way. There will be an emergency egress gate, but that's back here. There will not be the ability for them to just freely step off and just go running around.
Right. Okay, and I have one more question, Rich.
You can take as many as you want.
Somebody remind me, because I am having memory issues considering everything that we went through for the residential building. The trash and recycling being inside that building. 'Cause I watched the planning board meeting, I know what's coming. Was that something that we, was that from the beginning that was inside? Do you remember that?
I recall it was in the inside.
From the very beginning, the plan was to have the trash inside?
I believe so. I think we also had initially, and I just can't remember because this is now the third round of permitting.
Yeah.
There was at one time, we had an outdoor trash and recycling, which was really meant to handle like bulk items and the like.
Oh, right,
And then
okay.
we eliminated that because of the concerns.
That was basically on your far lot line, if I remember right, at one point.
That's right.
Then
Yeah,
we moved it up to
okay.
the building, but we kept it closer to the building so it wasn't next to the raw lane.
Right, and then now it's just gone all together. So all the trash and recycling is internal to the building, so other than when the trash and recycling trucks come to pick up, we'll roll out the 2-yard totes, and then they'll, flip them in, and then we'll take the totes back inside.
Okay, thank you. I just couldn't remember. Okay, on that note, I'll stop asking questions. You can
You
go
don't have
on.
one more, have one more.
No, I don't
Take
need
it.
to.
All right.
Thank you, though.
Ann,
Where's the entrance, Lars, to that building?
To,
The building entrance, the door, where's the front door?
for the restaurant,
Yeah, where's the front door?
so we have 2 main entrances at the moment, so in this back corner, this is part of what is being worked on right now by the tenant, is trying to figure out their full layout of where they want to have things, but essentially, because we have 90-some parking spaces here, we wanted to have a more direct point of access, especially relative to the ADA spaces, and then again, with trying to establish that connectivity, we have another entrance here at the front. So I'm not sure exactly what their preferences are for how they're going to want to do this in terms of, that triggers things like needing potentially 2 hosting stations, or if they're going to just have it like, maybe this is the back door, but there's like a hallway along the windows or something. I'm not sure. They're working through that sort of stuff right now.
You're showing pictorial, you're going to show,
Renderings?
yeah,
Yes, yep, we have those in the slide. I can show you.
yeah, we can go.
And again, we've done the before and after, so you can see we are very consistent with our original design. And again, if I'm not saying things well and you want to hear from the expert, Ed is here to talk with you about it as well. So these are if we go back to the approved renderings briefly, please, thank you. Again, we had originally the thought that there was the coffee place and then a healthy juice, and then we had a corner kitchen here. And you can see again the drive-through lane, this standalone building, and again another view. And so now if we go to the next page, you'll see that we've moved the kitchen over here, the coffee is over there, with the drive-through is gone. And I'm sorry to trouble you, if we could just go back for a second, you'll see how the relationship between these 2 barn facades is very tight, because we were, in plan view, the frontages were all sort of ending at the same kind of plane. And now when you go to the next page and look at it, now we're creating a little bit more of a framing of the site plan to try to create a little bit more of this walkable village feel, where it feels like a collection of buildings. And as I mentioned, that southern building is growing in square footage by about 500 square feet, so it's just getting a little bit longer. And so what's happening is the gray field that's just behind the white barn, it was just 1 module of a window bay, and now it's 2 modules. And then we had that same finished design in the back corner as people coming from the,
Anna, can you
Park
enlarge that bottom picture, just show that corner that Lars was talking about, so the people can see?
Is that on the other slide? The one that-
it's on the other slides, it's straight elevation, but not these renderings.
Okay, okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Application materials,
should have put my mouse in.
presentation materials.
Is that better?
Yeah, okay. I just want to see that gap.
Yep.
That looks, that building just looks really short.
Is it the
little
same
short.
height as the other gabled building next to it?
Yeah, like,
Yep,
It's just an illusion that it's not.
oh, okay.
we didn't change the heights or clear heights or.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, not like height, like lengthwise, like it's a
Yep.
long building, that just doesn't look that way. Am I seeing all the way?
Correct. So that's a little bit done on purpose. We're trying to have that white building sort of be
Yeah.
this framed barn, the modern farmhouse type aesthetic.
Right.
And then next to it, and if we could, I could show you in the elevations.
Oh, I see, okay, I see what you're doing. I
Yeah,
see.
it's just
Okay.
making the building a little bit longer. And that way that notch that occurs where the
Yeah.
crosswalk is, it's sort of like a subtle thing. And then again, so
Mm-hmm.
you'll see here in the approved plan, if we can go back one slide, please, you'll see it's the farmhouse, one slate gray piece, and then the wood treated corner. And then now what we're proposing is the white, two slate gray pieces.
Yeah.
And again, the wood treated
It
corner.
actually looks more balanced, that's good, yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like the sight line, the end of the sight line with moving that building forward.
Yeah, when Ed first did that with his team, we were like, wow, this is really kind of neat. Like, it was an accidental thing, but it's actually,
Yeah.
we've found ourselves enamored with it.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Linda, any comment?
No,
No?
we've
Okay.
talked about this a lot in our other committee.
All right. Anything else from the members? Hearing none. Is there anyone here from the public that has any comment? Name, oh, there's several. Okay. Name and address, please.
Mr. Fred Feldman, 27 Rowell Lane. And we have some concerns, but we also have some solutions, hopefully, that we'd like to present. Could we have the, through the chair, if we could have the parking lot picture again, please? And again, through the chair, could you show us, Laz, where the kitchen is going to be proposed in the diagram? Assuming, just.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. Right now, we have the utility rooms here, the
Okay,
water and
that's what I
electric.
assumed, that's what I assumed.
And then, my assumption is it would be like wrapping around that in this back corner,
That's what we-
away from the glass, but
And and I don't know, does the transformer make noise or not? We're not aware.
Only when it blows up.
Is that the kind of thing that would make noise?
They usually
That's a
have, like,
question.
They wouldn't want it to.
They usually have
You
a
know you
cover
wouldn't want
around
it to,
it,
but
right?
is that something that typically makes noise? We've
It's
had
usually
some-
enclosed in a, like a soundproof box.
Okay.
If you
all
go
right,
by
so-
the 99 restaurant, you can see what they've got out there.
Hmm?
If you go by the 99 restaurant, you can look out back and see what we've done back there
Okay.
for their transformer.
All right. So basically, I'm here not in opposition to the development of the Angelica's site or any particular project, but rather to work, as Laz has stated at the start of the project, with the developer to end up with a project that best suits the community. And I can distinctly remember from attending actually most of the planning and zoning board meetings since the start of this process, that a member of your particular board stated, and I think this was key and it keeps running through my mind, that the developer cannot create a hardship that doesn't pre-exist and then come to the board seeking relief for that hardship. And again, we want to present solutions to the situation, but I interpret that to say that the lease should conform to the zoning and not the zoning conform to the lease, but that's just my impression of what's going on, and we're going to look for something that's mutually workable here. Laz asked to meet with our board on Monday, and we did meet. We made a couple of suggestions, hoping that we could come to some sort of, looking for something that we could work together with, and we did establish some facts, that there would be 38 new parking spaces created. There's going to be an additional 1,500 square feet of additional space added between these two commercial buildings combined. That these additional 38 parking spaces are not going to generate enough traffic, especially at the peak restaurant hours, coinciding with the rush hour, to impact or change the reviewed traffic study. Hopefully, this is the case, that it's the peak hours, and that's during the dinner hour, that it's not going to change the traffic study that you people have reviewed. Also, you're going to have some increased seating since it's a larger restaurant. If this appeal were to be granted, hopefully this wouldn't result in an increase in the amount of water that's entering the ground to impact the water table and flag that 10,000 gallon per day threshold, mandating the groundwater monitoring system, which I would ask you to revisit, and because that was indicated by the peer review and state mandated, that currently there's approximately 9,500 gallon per day approved. And so if it goes up another 500 gallons with that increased seeding, it would mandate that groundwater monitoring system. I don't know if that's something you've already looked at, or if you would, that would be appreciated. You know, how are we going to be affected by this new zoning appeals consideration? And what are the potential solutions that we're going to offer, or that we've already offered to Laz? The dumpsters are moved directly over against our post and rail fence along Rowell Lane. And if you look at the diagram, we only have one sidewalk on Rowell Lane that passes directly in front of these dumpsters. You know, call these environmentally sound dumpsters. They do produce odors. You do get rodents. You do get noise. All 3 single-family homes directly in front of those dumpsters do have children living there. Secondly, the entire backside of the proposed restaurant parallels Rowell Lane, if I could. That's why I asked if the kitchen is going to be over here. That means this area, broken chairs, could be barrels out here, could be some storage of things that aren't being used during the day. That's all going to be visible to us. So you're going to have dumpsters, transformer, potential rubbish out here. 1, 2, 3 things as soon as you come onto Rowell Lane. Okay, if there were a fence, a 6-foot vinyl fence here, at a minimum, that would at least mask some of what we're going to be seeing here. So it's not just the dumpsters, it's the transformer, and it's the rubbish. I specifically yesterday took a little trip around, and within a couple of miles, what I'm talking about from behind, if I could, this is typically what you see, you know, restaurants with broken chairs.
Where's that?
Now, I don't want to give the name of the restaurant because it's a fairly decent restaurant, actually, that's within a few miles.
But, and I hear what you're saying.
So I'm respectfully just saying,
No,
that's the
and I-
potential kind of thing.
I understand that, but we can't, just because someone else is doing that, we can't presume, and I'm not necessarily,
Yeah.
this has nothing to do with what the proposal is. This has to do with,
Actually, it
well, this
does.
guy could do that. And I don't think that's, we can't make a judgment
No,
on
but
what
we
he
can be
might or might not
proactive.
do.
We can be proactive in maybe putting up a fence to prevent that kind of thing from happening. So I do think it's a legitimate concern of ours at this point, because that's something that the zoning board has control over. The zoning board could say, you know, we want to be proactive if we've got a dumpster, we've got a transformer, and that back could be filled with, you know, things being thrown in the back there. It's abutting a residential area, so that could be something they could condition.
I just have one question, Lodge, maybe you can answer this. Sure. Is the distance from the previous building, I know there were 2 lanes of traffic going behind that building.
Yep.
Is the backside of that building the same distance?
Yes.
Off the, so that didn't get any closer to Rowell Lane?
Can't, we're at the limit of the 35 feet setback.
Okay, so this is a question of either 2 lanes of traffic or what could be stored there or that sort of thing, right? Is there any intent to store stuff behind
There's
the
no
building?
intent to store there. I mean, we could put in the lease that they're not allowed to store anything there. I mean, the point is to have it be gas. You know, if they start storing things there, then it starts undermining the whole.
Respectfully, there's grass all in where they're throwing this kind of thing, too.
But
Yeah.
would that satisfy the concern that if he put in the lease, you can't store anything behind the building?
Well, who's going to supervise? I mean, the
building
other.
inspector.
Yeah, no, the other thing
A
is,
10-foot
and
fence?
respectfully, the other thing is, I took a picture too. I took a picture too, and I deleted it because it was a person. There were people taking a break from their job smoking cigarettes out there. It doesn't look too good, but a fence would at least hide that. I deleted that picture because I didn't think it was appropriate to take pictures of people, you know, of live people. It's not the right thing to do. But that's the kind of thing that behind restaurants, some people put a bench out there, so when they're on their lunch break, they go out there. So I'm just saying, those are the kind of things that.
And I want to be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Because if there are valid concerns, we want to make sure that this is good for the town, it's good for the neighbors, it's good for the
Right,
developer.
exactly.
Right? But the people across the street that live in those 3 single-family homes
Yeah.
could be sitting out in front of their front lawn smoking a cigarette too. So I don't see that as a valid thing that someone's taking a break outside.
Respectfully,
Just my-
those people bought that property, they have the right to do that. These people that are going into a restaurant for an hour and a half, 2 hours, they don't live there, they're not residents. If someone's a resident, they can do that, but I don't want to
We can agree to disagree,
about
but
that.
we want to find solutions.
We
So
want-
let's
I'm here to
solutions.
find a solution, so I'm saying a vinyl fence, a 6-foot vinyl fence from the front of Rowell Lane to just beyond the dumpster is not an exorbitant expense for a builder that's doing
Yeah.
a multi-million-dollar project.
I'm sorry, can you repeat, like, what length are you asking for? You're
For a
not
fence?
asking for, like, the length of the property, right?
Just to the end of where the doors are, right?
Well, at a minimum, what I'm asking for is a fence from the entrance of Rowell Lane to beyond the dumpster. But the other solution I'm saying is the dumpster, before we were asking for this change, was right up around here. Didn't like it, but at least it was away from the fence, but the dumpster was over here. The other alternative is, if you look at this site plan, internal to this building right here, you have trash recycling, mechanical building, elevator. I don't think there are residents right here. Laz had mentioned that there's a slight elevation here. So I'm not an engineer, but could almost guarantee that if you took a couple of scoops of dirt out of here and put a small retaining wall here possibly, and a small retaining wall here, the arms of the dumpster, since this is already a trash recycling area here, it's no further probably from here to here than, much further than from here to here. You could have a dumpster here instead of putting the trash recycling here.
But then they're crossing the street with trash.
Yeah,
I
so
don't- That's not a
yeah.
great idea at night.
There's a couple issues I have.
That could be a
yeah.
real safety hazard. I don't think the building inspector would go for that.
Well, maybe the building inspector wouldn't, but at a minimum, a 6-foot vinyl fence from here to here takes care of the transformer, the dumpster, and any workers or anything that's gonna be in here.
Anyone else? Are you done? And then we'll go to somebody else, but you continue if you'd like.
And can I just ask, how long is that fence? I see you pointing out where it begins and ends, but how many feet is that actually?
It's about 160 feet from the edge of the dumpster, which is already screened with a 6-foot screening, which is in the architectural plans. To go from there out to the front property line is about 160 feet.
Well,
Notwithstanding blocking the back of the building, my concern is bringing that fence up to the street line.
Yeah, me too.
And then I have concerns about sight distance.
Site distance.
about what?
Sight distance for people trying to get out, for you guys trying to get
People
out.
can't see around
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, you could, I don't know, maybe you could, maybe graduate it.
I mean, you could always go,
So-
I mean, could you add like a small extension on, well, the other problem you run into though is the setback for your, for the, transformer, right? So you can't have I don't think you can have a fence right up against it.
Yeah, my understanding is we need to have 10 feet
10 feet.
back from
Or
all
6. I
sides.
think
but-
it's 6 actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could certainly talk to them about that, but,
Yeah.
that would be another factor.
Could you run it a small portion and then maybe dogleg it in where the,
Yeah,
where
I
the,
mean,
where
we-
the door is
You
maybe?
could,
Yes.
how about having a fence within, Laz has all the landscaping in here, how about running a fence from inside the dumpster along here? So maybe it's 10 feet within the property line.
Yeah, I don't think we're supportive of that. Again, we're getting back to the sight distance stuff, right?
Getting back to what?
Sight distance problems? Because you're running it all the way
Yeah.
to the road, right? So that's gonna cause a problem if you're trying to get out.
Can you stop it at the corner of the building?
Yeah, you know, I'd like to go to some of the other members that have, folks that have questions, and then we can come back to you. Sir, name and address.
I'm quick.
Okay.
Sal Della Solar, I'm 53 Rowell Lane. I'm also with the Board of Trustees at Blue Haven. I agree with everything Fred said. We talked to Laz, and we talked about adding the fence from the dumpster to the corner to hide the back of that building. I don't think that's very unreasonable. A lot of members are residents at Blue Haven, actually want the fence going all the way up Rowell Lane and kissing the corner of the other white fence and blocking out from this corner all the way up here, kits in the corner of the existing white fence that takes the corner, because it's a residential area, taxpayers, they don't want to look at the parking lot, quite frankly. And safety issues, people coming out of the restaurants, people drinking, doing whatever happens in parking lots after restaurants. So a lot of people that live at Blue Haven are concerned of that factor. And we talked about maybe taking the fence and putting it all the way down. And then we talked a lot, trying to meet in the middle. We talked about maybe we stop the fence at the actual dumpster. And that's what Fred was proposing. You could stop the fence on the corner and kiss the corner of the building. Your site will not be obstructed where the courtyard is. You could see down 114. My other question was the traffic study. So traffic study, if you look at the earlier picture we had, we're looking at the vehicles coming into the development. I don't know what the distance is, but it seems very close to Rowell Lane. So my question to you guys and Lars, has there been a study of...
Extensive.
Okay, so we already have we struggle coming out of Rowell Lane, we all know that, right? So now you got other vehicles trying to come out of that development. How is that going to impact? It's got to be worse.
That's, well,
I'm not an expert with this.
Quite frankly, there was a bigger issue with the drive-through. I would think people would be kicking their heels now that there's no drive-through here.
Oh, I agree. Oh,
So I think from a traffic standpoint, because that's what I do for a living, eliminating the drive-through versus this is a huge improvement.
I agree.
In terms of, traffic congestion and all this other stuff. The other thing too, with the restaurant, the morning peak hour, I would suspect, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Arnold, but I would suspect that unless this is serving breakfast at 7 a.m.
Not this current tenant, no.
We're not going to have an AM peak hour issue like we did with the drive-through. So this is, in my mind, I mean, I'm one vote here, but in my mind, this is way better from a traffic standpoint.
But your traffic study went based on the higher area. So you didn't base it on what the building was previously. You based it on a larger.
Correct.
And you're adding extra parking that's not actually required. This is just what your tenant is requesting.
This is what they're requesting for just
I mean, I think the
table
traffic study stays sound. I don't see that really being a change personally. I like the green space. I like the fact that now we don't have to talk about a drive-through again. I think that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't like the longer building as much without softening it in some way, like even tree or something or two, just so it's not this big black, gray, whatever you're doing wall. I mean, I think I'd like to see something, or put something on it to spice it up a bit or something.
I think what a lot of residents are concerned at Blue Haven is we all struggle to get out of our street to begin with. 114's backed up to the center lights. What's going to happen when there's 200, 300, 150 vehicles coming in and out of that development, which I'm all for the art development, I am.
So
it's just Rowell Lane coming in and out.
So just to that point, not to interrupt you, but just to that point, this project's already permitted.
Oh, yeah, no, I know that. I'm coming in at the end. I'm just speaking for residents that have questioned me about the study, pulling in and out of your development and our street. Is there going to be another light set up in front of us? I know there's not going to be. So even though you've done a traffic study, the answer is nothing's changing.
That's not true. I mean, we actually addressed a lot of your comments. So originally, there was the entrance was going to be right next to you guys. And we pushed it away based on comments. I mean, this went through 18 months of discussion, right? I mean, was it about that?
Yeah.
I mean, so we hammered this thing to death on multiple different issues. And
I'm just curious, and I wasn't on the board at the time. When Rowell Lane was being proposed, did they do a traffic study?
I wasn't here.
I don't even remember
I wasn't even.
that.
Was I even in
I
town?
remember it was pre-pandemic.
I wasn't on the board. So.
They did not. They had an engineering letter that basically said they don't need to do a traffic study.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly now.
Not with Rich.
Yeah.
So, again, I get this has been permitted, I get it, but we all know, regardless of what everyone's opinions are, you are bringing in additional parking vehicles into your development. There's going to be additional problems with us pulling out of development, hands down.
There's going to be additional one, I didn't.
Problems, traffic. It's going to happen. When that light is red and you've got 100 cars from the set of lights backed up to Elements, I'm just saying.
What do you propose?
Oh, there's nothing I can propose. I just asked you guys to relay message to residents in my community was there additional traffic studies produced with your entrance and Rowell.
Your neighbors should tell you there were
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
extensively.
Yep.
Was there not?
They were.
Okay.
I guess
So
we are
what
now-
I would like to do in the spirit of,
Yeah, that's
spirit
okay.
of time,
That's-
let's
yep.
talk about what's happening now
Yep.
and what we're going to do to move forward. Solutions.
Yep.
I don't want to, we don't need to go back
Yeah,
the
no,
18
that's
months
okay.
that we
Again,
went
I
through.
just had asked a question so I can relay it to
Okay,
people that are
I
asking me.
appreciate
I
it.
thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Norma Andre, UG 77 Rowell Lane. I was curious, Mr. Renault, you said, is there a specific amount of parking spaces that are allowed typically for a building?
So our bylaw requires a certain amount of parking.
And how much is that?
So the site requires 109 or 110 total, and he's providing 153 because his tenant has asked for additional parking. So he is providing more parking than he would, which is going to cause less.
Right,
folks
which
to
makes
leave.
more asphalt and more sea of,
It doesn't, no, it actually reduces the amount of asphalt.
with more parking?
Because the drive-through's gone, so they got rid of all the asphalt in another travel lane that would be tying in the front of the building. So all that's
Based on what I
going.
can see here, it looks like much more
So
asphalt.
you can kind of see it in this slide, right? So see in front of the building, on the upper slide? Lars, you want to point that out?
Yes.
That's all
Yeah, and
asphalt.
that's all asphalt, all that's going away. So that's not
Okay,
paved.
this looks larger to me, just by viewing, this looks larger to me than that.
Yep, so what they did
Parking
is
spaces.
they held the line by Rowell Lane and worked into the site. So nothing's closer to you folks than it was.
Oh, I'm just saying that it's more, I don't.
Yeah, it's a touch more, right, Lars? I mean, what was what'd you expand it by
The
a few
island is
feet? Because
gone.
the island goes
Okay,
away.
it was 100 and, you said, how many here?
Parking spaces?
Yes.
Well, now there's 90-some spaces here total.
And there was-
This was 50 or 60
Okay, so
or
there's
so.
40 more parking spaces. This is my point. Now, I don't know the name of the restaurant, and I don't need to, but what's its seating capacity?
The 180 seats is what we've programmed with them, which is about the
100?
same size as the Maggie's Farm and 99 restaurant.
And is it the same amount of square footage as either of those two?
Roughly, yes. I'm not sure exactly the square footage, but yes.
Yeah, I thought I heard 1,500 square feet.
1,500 square feet for,
The restaurant.
size of the increase.
that's the increase in the overall gross leasable area.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, the building, the restaurant building is about 4,500 square feet.
So he thinks he's going to have 100, a person's going to have 180 seating capacity.
Yes, which is actually generous spacing. Normally, in terms of square foot per seat, for a full-service restaurant, you actually could be in an even smaller building. But they have their format, they have a large bar area, and they also, anticipate.
And so you think with 180 seats, I'm just trying to think of
Sure.
restaurants I go to, you need 190, you need 100
I
parking
don't,
spaces? Don't they
that's,
all come together?
yeah.
It's a town law.
Yeah, but there's also other businesses here, right?
Yes,
So
but
like
isn't
in the
that for the
other,
restaurant?
the
No,
150,
no, the
yeah.
150 is the whole site. So that's basically what they're saying is, we want to make sure there's enough parking there, so when someone comes to lunch on a Saturday and they're also going to the other retail users, there's a high likelihood there'll be plenty of parking for them to be there. And for a Saturday evening, when they're rotating from first service to second service, they want to make sure that the second service people can find a place to park before the first service people have left,
So is
essentially.
there other parking other than this, other than those few I saw, like at the front?
Just the few in the front and that's the whole 153 spaces.
And there's, yeah, okay, well, I did wonder when I got the floor plan that, what the transformer is and all that, how much space it takes. I don't know anything about those, but, I don't know, it just seems like so much more parking area to me.
Lars, just maybe for some clarity.
Yes.
The footprint of the parking lot
Yeah.
is the same, with the exception that the island came out. Is that right?
No.
Roughly, I mean, you'll see, like, for example.
Oh, with the corner.
Yeah, we have
the
this
corner.
chamfer, and then as was mentioned, we did have this, like, middle island and the little strip along where that sidewalk was. But as Mr. Renault said, yes, we're holding this exact same 10-foot line, but obviously now we don't have this little jog where the trees are, we're just running straight along, which is an improvement, by the way, over existing conditions. It's less than 10 feet
Yeah.
right now from the edge of the surface parking area to the property line and split rail fence.
And I have one more thing, and this is in response to homes residential area for the people who are going to live there. Since you lengthened the buildings in that commercial strip, those people are pretty close to that now. That's come back 10 feet or whatever, and got rid of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, their front door is how far away from that?
Well, so where we lengthened the building was the other way. As you'll see, we're sort of holding this line, this relationship on the back. We're pushing the building forward. So there's no difference in terms of the building relative to the single-family homes that are there.
No, I'm not talking about
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about the proposed residential building.
The apartment building.
The apartment
Yeah.
building.
So-
They're close now.
They're not really any closer, it's just.
You moved it, you moved, when you showed us the picture,
Yeah.
you told us this came back further,
Yes.
which means they are closer to these people.
Correct. So look, this, for example, this storefront is deeper now, so
Right.
there's just more of it that's at that same line.
Right, so
That's
all
correct.
this versus that little bit is now back further to these people. So
That-
that's really close to them.
Yes.
No.
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 You're not.
She thinks the whole building moved this way, it did not.
No, not the building, the length of the building or whatever, with the
Yeah,
length.
yeah. But so, some things that are not obvious from the plan is that the elevation of the apartment building is about 8 feet higher than the back of the retail, so there's sort of a plateau type effect there. And then, as you can see, we have a bunch of landscaping that's occurring along there as well. But again, it's the back of the building, which, other than when, there's loading in the morning or trash being taken out, it should be relatively quiet.
It's the back of the building, but the front of those people's homes.
Yep, and when they are choosing to rent or not rent
Yeah.
that apartment, they will
Yeah,
see what they're
decide, yeah.
looking at and decide whether
Okay.
they want
Well,
that.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Want to go forward?
Yes, please, name and address.
Jeff King.
Come on up.
Oh,
Come on up.
And
thank you.
microphone.
Jeff King. I live at 83 Rowell Lane. And a few things I'd like to see, revisit what the elevation is facing into Rowell Lane, and the consideration of possibly a traffic light on 114
We don't
coming
own-
out of
We
Rowell
have nothing.
Lane.
We don't own
Can't.
114.
State.
State highway?
Yeah, we had a
Okay.
grant to
You can
do some
apply to
work
the
out
state.
And
there.
the last thing is, and I don't think you have any control over it, can we limit not having liquor at that restaurant?
That's up to the select.
That's select board.
Has nothing-
Select board does that. yeah.
Okay.
Nothing to do with us.
Can you show us, can you revisit, show us what the elevation is facing Rowell Lane?
I don't know if we have an elevation here facing Rowell Lane.
You do.
So that-
Yes,
You-
the
you do.
flat elevation,
Yep,
not the
the-
rendering.
yep.
Yes.
Rendering.
Yep. So if we go to the next page,
One more up.
so this is the part that's facing north, this is facing Boston Street.
Yeah.
So this is the side facing Rowell Lane. So the front corner that you would see most readily at the corner where Rowell Lane meets South Main, you'll see that.
So-
And then the rest of it is no windows for exactly that reason, to try to make it as opaque.
Oh, I was going to say, can you make it as soft as possible somehow?
Well, that's what I was asking
Yeah.
earlier, because I don't like, it's.
Yeah, I don't like to see a big black thing. I mean, it could be nice,
Yeah.
even if you had some windows or some kind of fenestration going into it that was, really looking in, but it was sort of frosted or something like
And
that,
you
just
like
to
come-
soften the blow.
It's some kind of faux window, right? Like a-
Exactly. So when you drive in, you see, it's more of a comfort
Yep.
driving into Rowell Lane into Blue Haven.
I mean, I'm in agreement on that, so I definitely think, so just some, it doesn't necessarily have to be a faux window, it could be some type of.
Some kind of
kinda break it
architectural
up,
treatment.
Or even a couple of trees too, or maybe a combo of both would be awesome.
Well, if I might remind the board.
Yep.
Along this entire property line with Rowell Lane.
Yep.
We're doing arborvitae's in between each of the pre-existing deciduous trees, the whole run, one by the other. So effectively, it's going to be a green wall, other than, of course, in wintertime when the deciduous trees have dropped their leaves, they'll
Yep.
essentially be back. So we're installing an understory at each of those deciduous trees, but otherwise, there will not be, you will not see that gray mass undisturbed.
Okay.
Because that was part of what we worked through last summer, was having this interspersing what we were doing with what exists there today to try to create this sort of green wall.
It would make it a lot softer
Whoa,
coming in.
one at a time.
I was just gonna say,
Yes, sir.
could we get a rendering maybe that shows that, so we could see it?
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
that would do the trick, right? At least
Yeah.
these folks can see it. I have the concern too, just to make sure that It doesn't look like a big black wall. I mean,
Exactly.
If I may, this is now getting out of my depth. Maybe Ed could chime in on this, because we did study different ways to break down the size of that massing. We were going for a different approach, was to try to make this as nondescript and just sort of disappear as much as possible. And based on discussions last summer, we hadn't put additional windows there, although it's the south side facing of the building, for the reason of not wanting to have too much light spill and other nuisances affecting the residences. But Ed, would you like to share, or if the board would like, or, you know, what?
I think this would help the whole discussion.
yeah, I think it helps.
Sure, please, Ed, if
Yeah,
you
sure.
could.
Thanks. Good evening. Yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty well, Lars. I think the approach to this facade of the building facing Rowell Lane, the prominent architectural feature is, as Lars described it, the white barn that sits on the corner, and that does face Rowell Lane, and it sits at the corner. That's the prominent architectural feature. We want it to be very quiet after that, so that there, as Lars said, no windows. That's only extra activity for folks that are across the street. As Lars also knows, there's a lot of plantings along that, so it's just a kind of quiet, low wall. Dark makes it actually kind of, fade away a bit, right? So you have a prominent white gable and then a quiet, dark wall with plants in front of it. You could decorate it, do other things. It would draw more attention to it, in my opinion. So it's, again...
Aesthetic attention, though.
Excuse me. We got to do this in order, all right? I'd like the architect to finish speaking, and then we'll come back, okay? Continue, please.
So, I mean, that's the essence of it. We want the feature at the corner, the white barn, to be the prominent focal point. After that, we'd like it to be quiet, set back, have the plantings in front, really.
Can you show us a picture, Lars, of that? Is there a rendering of that?
We don't have a rendering of that southern end, unfortunately, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that too.
Yes, sir.
Respectfully, I know you're gonna put the green giant arborvitae there, and we were talking about a 6-foot white vinyl fence. We're an over 55 community, so unless you're gonna plant a 12-foot green arborvitae, I mean, we're talking about maybe putting some windows or something like Jeff had mentioned, because it's gonna take a while for those green giant arborvitae to grow, so unless you're planning on planting a 9-foot arborvitae, and I'm not trying to be facetious, but
I mean, I can
I
tell you.
agree with what you're saying.
I can
Something-
tell you where
something
I
on the wall.
live. There's giant arborvitaes, and they're, I don't know how, they're up to the second story of the building I'm in.
Yeah.
And you can't see through them. It's pretty amazing.
I know, but-
Notwithstanding some of the soft treatment, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Pretty
saying,
effective in
if you
screening.
can condition planting at least an 8 to 9 foot arborvitae. I mean, if you're gonna put in a 6-foot green giant arborvitae, it's still gonna take you probably 6 to 10 years
Oh,
before
no,
that
no,
thing
they
gets.
grow like a foot a year. No, they're pretty quick. That's why they use them. They're very fast.
And the
growing.
width, I mean, it's gonna take time.
Sir,
We've planted some too, and after 3 years, I'm still as tall as they are. And that's not saying much.
Ma'am, did you have something else?
Me?
Norma? No?
I was just going to say, to possibly make them tall enough, we are older people, so at least that we could appreciate the fact that they fill in and they're tall, as opposed to,
I can't see over a rose bush, so.
well, I'm less than that, so.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening, Nick Polides, 38 Rowell. I just wanted to refocus. The biggest issue for us was the location of that trash shed. And I know you're fully aware, the planning board recommended that trash shed be put over where the entrance to the 40B is, where they're dealing with trash anyways. Takes it away from our lot line and puts it in the middle of his property rather than up against us. So that's basically, I'd still like to have that vetted and discussed.
So is,
So we have an enclosure, right?
sorry?
We have an enclosure, right?
That's
Could you
correct,
show
yes.
that?
It's in one of the renderings. Just scroll down a little further.
Well, maybe take a look at that. so we-
It's actually at the, yeah, there you go.
Oh, no.
If you go to the top, yep, you'll see it's basically, essentially metal columns and then composite screening, sort of, almost like a stockade thing. There's air gaps there, of course, for wind load and the like. the top.
Is there 2 dumpsters?
One dumpster and one recycling bin, that's right.
So there's 2 dumpsters, there's not one.
Within the enclosure.
What goes in the recycling bin?
Cardboard boxes, just all the standard recycling, I would assume that it'll be like, the mixed sort of thing, right, where they'll take glass, cardboard, and plastic all in one dumpster. What's a single stream, I think they say.
Yeah.
But 2 dumpsters.
Les, is there any discussion, and you've heard a lot about this fence, you've had any thoughts and any discussions with the neighbors on where you are with the fence?
We had like was said, we did have an initial discussion on Monday. Putting a fence along the entire run from the dumpster out to the street doesn't feel great to me. I understand the concerns about, people taking smoke breaks or what have you. What I would say is, maybe it's doing something like going from the edge of the dumpster to maybe halfway up the building, so that there's like an area where I could say in the lease, if you're gonna have people doing smoke breaks or whatever, it's gotta be behind this fence, and then beyond the fence, absolutely nothing is allowed to occur here. But I don't think bringing a fence all the way up to the end of the building, especially again, as Ed was pointing out, the white barn at the end, I think it would be good to have that pulled back, so there's sort of a series of steps that occur, so it feels like a really soft, layered corner, and it would provide enough space for, if they want to store some things, or if they want to have people out there smoking or whatever, there's a place to do that behind a 6-foot stockade fence. And what we could do
Is the bottom left the visual of what they would be looking at from Rowell Lane?
Correct.
All right, so
That's
you're
the
gonna
old-
see the
that's the
white
old-
gable in the end, and then just,
Right, so like maybe the fence comes to like a midpoint or something.
I think that's the old one, Lars. That's the old one.
It's the old one, okay, but it should be essentially the same.
Annie, you want the mouse?
I could use that, thank you.
Over the outdoor seating at the end of the dumpster, at a minimum.
So the issue with that is that you have these windows in that white barn.
Yeah.
That, like, I would hate for, like, you've got that really nice facade on that side, and you're gonna have people in there, and life going on in there, and blocking it all off with a fence. It would just be a shame. I would like people to be coming down 114 and to be able to see that.
Yeah, I think this was like kind of an architectural thing we asked for.
Yeah.
If I recall. So, I mean, I'd hate to block that, but, Anna, could you just scroll down to the other one? Because it's for that, it should be on this one, just below, you're just touching it. That's the one. So we have the new doors there now, right? And then the dumpsters to the left of those doors.
Those
We're
doors
still
may
working
move,
on, yeah.
and like I said, what the tenant is looking through, just the whole overall program, and how does the kitchen work and all that sort of stuff, but.
Which view is this, sorry?
This here is the south side of the south building facing Rowell Lane.
Okay, all right.
So before you add in the landscaping screening, this is what faces that direction.
That's what you would see with no landscaping, with
That's what
nothing.
you'd see with no landscaping, that's right.
Go from the white to the end of the dumpsters, white wall to the end of the dumpsters. Otherwise, it looks like you didn't finish the fence.
It's gonna look like they didn't finish the fence no matter what.
Yeah, I mean,
Not if you turn it in. No,
We
you're gonna
could
turn it in.
turn it in, we could have
Oh,
it taper
okay.
down. I would suggest we wouldn't want to bring the white fence all the way to the white, we want to hold it back some distance.
Yeah,
I'm in agreement on that.
I agree.
It's
So
gonna block
that we
it's gonna
can,
block the visual of that gable
Well,
barn
and
look.
it's all, if it's white, it's all gonna become one.
right, and that's why I think you want to have some separation, so if it comes, whatever the distance is, so there's sufficient space for whatever awful things may happen behind the fence, and then it turns, and then there's like, you still create that rhythm of a gap before you have this white building, because if you have the white fence and then the white building, I think that'll not feel great.
So,
And, excuse me,
oh, go ahead.
Yes, Linda?
what will that do what would that fence do to the appearance, to the aesthetic of the plantings, of the trees
I
and
think that's
So, the
arborvitae?
thought would be, if you wouldn't mind going to site plan, I'm sorry to keep bothering you.
No problem. If I can get there, I'll go there. Is this the one that
So,
wants-
yeah, this is great. So basically, you know, we have this already, you can see this rhythm of the 3 green giants between each of the existing deciduous trees, and then we have understory under the deciduous trees at the split rail fence.
Right.
So if we were to do a fence, what I would propose would be that we basically follow the curb line. So we would maybe shift the trash back a foot or two, or at least the surround of it, so that then we would just hold that 10-foot line. So if you try to, the only way I think this works well is if you create layers. So if you were to think about it coming from this perspective, you would have the sidewalk and the grass, then the split rail fence, then the arborvitaes or understory, and then another area of grass, and then the white fence. So basically, there's basically a 10-foot landscaping strip, if you will, from the split rail fence to the white vinyl fence. So it creates a series of layers. And that's why I think if you then had this sort of step, and maybe it turns where this tree is, it just creates sort of like a series of steps that kind of make sense and allows for this front corner to feel both active in terms of being able to see through the restaurant, and also soft because it's just then grass and, you know, trees and bushes. And again, you know, we put in the lease, they can't do anything beyond the edge of the fence, you know, no storage, no people hanging out there.
I mean, that's what I was thinking, so, I mean, that, you know, my only question would be, would you want to maybe do it similar to the trash enclosure? You know what I'm saying, with that material, so it's not like 2 materials, but I don't know if that's super pricey, I have no idea, so.
I assume it's pricey because it's, you know, dumpster enclosure, so it's generally like steel tube piping and all the like. You know, just doing the vinyl fence is, you know, I understand it's no big deal, but it's a big deal at this point with everything. So, you know, my thought would be that at least then it has a relationship to the white vinyl split rail fence, as opposed to now you start getting into different fence types, and plus the building, it just starts adding more variables in terms of the aesthetics.
The split rail fence is white? Not.
The split rail fence is white vinyl, yes.
Already white vinyl, so you'd want to kind of match that anyway, right?
All right, do we kind of feel where we want to be?
I think so, yeah, I mean, so, do we want to, what are you folks thinking? I mean, really in front of us for a setback change, right? I mean, that's the majority of it, right?
Yeah.
And the change in the site plan
Site
to add the
plan.
parking, right? I mean, that's really what we're here for.
Yeah, and like I said, there's other tweaks that are in the drawings. We tried to bubble everything in terms of, like I said, the window package is going from 11 feet to 10.
Yeah.
Things like that.
But everything's pretty close to what we have.
It's pretty much the same design.
Yes, sir.
Richard Andriucci of 77 Rowell Lane. I think the dumpster originally was where it's being proposed now, was that correct?
It's pretty close, it was against, closer to the building, right?
Yeah, so when we had the drive-through lane,
It was 18 feet up.
some dimension this way, I think it might be less than 18 feet, but I don't want to get into arguments.
Sure.
But then it was this way, because it was on the other side of the drive-through lanes, about 24 feet.
Was it negotiated to be moved someplace else at one point in time?
No, so from the time we filed the original application of the previous plan, it never moved. So what instead happened over the course of the process was we put forth and agreed to an O&M plan, operations and management plan, that specified how we were going to maintain its cleanliness, as well as that it would not be serviced before 8 a.m. or after 8 p.m. to try to address the concerns the best we could.
Now, the planning board heard all of this at the last meeting, and they had made some recommendations where they thought this may go. Do you know what those recommendations were?
Yeah.
Yep.
And where were those, please?
I mean, I can tell you, I'm not willing to move a dumpster further from one residential area close, right next to another residential building. I mean, you're putting, that was why I asked the question earlier about why did we put the trash and the recycling inside that building, right? I don't want to move restaurant trash or building, whatever is there, right to where where we've already moved it inside the residential building. And then the point that Ann made earlier, which is a good point, you now have restaurant staff moving trash across the street, and I'm not comfortable with that.
What is the OEM or whatever that is?
O&M?
O&M?
Operations and maintenance.
Okay, could you explain that, please? Because that's been mentioned a bit, and I've really not understood that.
So they were required to provide an O&M plan of how they're going to handle trash. So for example, they can't pick up the trash before 8 AM and they can't pick up the trash after 8 PM.
Okay.
So things like that, so that it's consistent with the peaceful enjoyment of those in the area, including the people in their building
Sure,
as well.
yeah.
Right? Things like that.
Okay, how about maintenance of the area around the trash? How about that? How's that controlled?
Well, I'm not going to speak for the developer, but I got to think that if he wants people coming to his site, he's going to want to make sure it looks tidy and clean and that, right?
And that is covered in the O&M plan. So there are standards around maintaining cleanliness, what the waste hauler is required to do if a spill were to occur, all that sort of stuff.
And who enforces those rules, recommendations?
Board of Health.
Board of Health does.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
There's one other quick option, and you might blow it away real quickly, and I mentioned this to Laz. But what would there be a harm in taking the trash, and switching this trash to here and putting 2 handicap spaces here, which would totally hide the dumpster? Because Laz had said he's not sure where the entrance, if it's gonna be over here or up here. That's just another option, just taking the dumpster, putting it here, and putting 2 handicap spaces here. If the entrance is gonna be over here, because he said he's not exactly sure where the entrance is gonna be. Just another thought.
But then you have people walking by the dumpster, right? The handicap folks? Is that what you were talking about, moving the handicap spaces further away from the
Just
building?
swapping putting a van, I don't know if that's it. I don't know where he said the entrance was gonna be. I don't know what
The entrance is there. So the entrance, what I don't know is where they're gonna put the kitchen, but the entrance will be within the windows that are part of this corner. So it might be here or it might be there, but it'll be in this corner area.
Or putting 2 handicap spaces here. Or putting if the entrance is here, putting 2 handicap spaces here, and putting the dumpster here, and putting a couple of handicap spaces here and here. Here and here.
You can't because you have to have a width next to it, so.
I don't know, moving this in or something, and putting a handicap space here and here, and putting the dumpster there. I mean, I don't know how to design it because I'm not an engineer, but I can't imagine that you couldn't put the dumpster right here and put some handicap spaces right here, if the entrance is gonna be right here. I mean, I don't understand why you can't put handicap spaces here if the entrance is gonna be right here. And just flip the dumpster here on the other side and that solves the problem. Then you don't probably need the fence.
This is next to the sidewalk, I believe.
Yeah, you typically want the handicap spaces next to the sidewalk, and they have to be as close to the building as possible.
Okay, that's just a thought.
That's an ADA thing.
It's an ADA thing.
That's not up to us, yeah.
I mean, you want to weigh in? Anybody?
I don't know, it's just a thought.
No, I'm listening to you.
Wouldn't it require,
I don't know what the regs are.
yeah,
I just thought it was closer to the front than walking all the way down.
right?
No, so it's because the way if you look at how the handicap spaces are set up, they have the little hatched area, that has to have additional width, so they lose spaces. If he was to do that, he would lose 2 spaces.
You have 4 spaces, one's a van space, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the van space is even wider than a typical handicap space.
Right, and
More of the side space, so what we're showing is 8-foot space.
Seeing the handicap spaces out front of the school or across from the front entrance.
Right.
So that's what made me think of that.
No, I understand.
Needs to be
So-
across from the front entrance.
Well, just to answer you, so there's 2 that are the vans, and they share the 8-foot space in between them, or the hatched area, and then the other one is a 5-foot hatch space. So they would have to develop a 5-foot hatch space in that run of cars in the middle, in those
I only
spaces
thought
in
it
the
because I
middle.
saw the ones
Yeah.
out front here, that's the only thing.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah, they have to be able to pull fire trucks up along the sidewalk here.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that at the restaurant out back.
Right.
I just thought that
So
would
the
solve,
ha- the
that would
restaurant
eliminate
does-
the whole fence thing.
Right.
That's the only thing that I thought.
Yeah,
It's a good thought.
yeah, it makes sense, though.
I mean, I think the fence is, as we've discussed, like, I don't think it's a terrible solution.
But only for that short distance, not all the way,
Yeah.
not all the way to the
The
end.
fence plus the
No,
stipulation that nobody can put, that the restaurant cannot use the back area for
Well,
anything.
but we're talking about a
We're gonna put a
6-foot
fence,
blockade
then
fence.
Have that ability, right?
And what?
If we're gonna do the fence, then we should have the ability for them to use that space. If
As
it's
long as the
screened by
fence goes a little bit further down, because, not just halfway, because that, you know.
I can tell you right now, I am not gonna vote for that fence going all the way to the end. I'm concerned about sight distance.
All right.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen, in my,
Could it
on one
go
vote,
down to the
but it's not
eating
gonna
area,
happen.
the outdoor eating area? Is that a reasonable thing?
Sorry?
Say it again?
Is it reasonable to get down to the outdoor eating area? Is that reasonable?
No, I mean, I think we're gonna have it'll come back towards the building, right?
It's gonna come back
turn,
toward the
right?
building, right.
It's gonna make a 90-degree turn towards the building, is that what we're talking about?
I haven't, I'm doing this like on the fly.
I know,
here.
sorry, Lars.
My thought was it would be something like, if you think of the gray part, that's the area of concern of that mass, and whatever that length is, it, comes to like halfway, and
Yeah.
maybe that last panel both tapers down from 6 to 3, as well as turns in.
Take a
It's just
45
whole
toward the
thing.
building? Is that
Exactly, like a
reasonable?
45-degree angle,
Yeah,
I'm not a designer, landscape designer, I can ask the landscape architect the right way to do it, but essentially, we would have it turn, which I think we need to do structurally anyway, so it's not just a flat panel.
Creating a
that'll
pan.
blow.
yeah.
It would just, the one panel would turn at an angle, and maybe the height of it tapers down, and then
Okay,
it's
so it's not
landscaped.
coming up all the way to the
comes
building.
down
It's
here
not coming
and
all the way up
takes
to the
the
building,
45.
because we would want to keep it open, so we can get lawn mowing equipment in there and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
it
right?
comes down here and takes the 45.
No,
No, 90.
And I'm,
90.
All right, I don't care, but I'm saying, comes
It's
down.
gonna
and
turn,
takes
no,
the
it's gonna, see the tree is right before your hand?
Yeah.
Right, it's gonna turn in towards the building,
Right,
not at an angle, straight back.
that's fine, this way.
Yeah.
90.
And then, I mean, I've worked in a lot of restaurants in my younger years, and I don't remember a lot of things being stored outside. But I just can't imagine they're gonna want to store, like, you have this view of the front. I'm not concerned about that.
You don't have doors in the back there, right? It's not like they can open a door and throw something out, then
We
close
don't
the door,
currently.
right?
The only thing I don't know, as an example, is they may say, if we have the kitchen here, they may want to add a kitchen door so food deliveries can occur that way as opposed to coming through the front door. But again, that would just be a sidewalk to get to the kitchen door
And behind the fence.
Great place for.
and behind the fence, correct?
So Lars, when are you gonna have a plan for the back entrance and stuff? When's that, is that in the queue? Is that like a ways away? How, like, I know you need to get your lease, and
Yep.
I'm sensitive to that.
Yep.
But I mean, I think it might be better to have a handle on how that's all gonna lay out, because, I mean, the request for the trash thing to move isn't awful. I mean, I can figure out a way, looking at this, that it would work. I can.
Can or cannot?
Can. I see a way to make it work. But the question is, what does your facade look like in the back? If the door is towards the roadway entrance there, then I think it makes sense. But if it's right in smack dab in the middle of the building, then obviously that's not awesome. You don't want to be walking in next to a dumpster, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, it wouldn't, if we could go to the elevations page, and if I could trouble you, the next page. So, if you are approaching the building from the main parking area, this is what you see. So you have the glass fenestration area within the wood framing. So that would be where the door for customers, patrons to come.
Maybe I missed this then.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Okay.
I think I missed it, sorry.
So,
about
basically just one of these glass panels would become a glass door. We just don't know which panel they would want to do it, whether they want to hold back from the corner so they have a seating area along the glazing, or if they, that's the kind of stuff they're trying to figure out. But essentially, it's over there. And then the question is just, again, the utility doors, where do those go? Are they serviced from the inside? Do they want them from the outside? Like, all that kind of stuff is the stuff they're trying to work through right now. But as it relates to its impact on the design, it's again, these gray slab doors, which will be effectively the same color as the siding field, so it shouldn't really impact the aesthetic in any way.
Okay.
Well, I think you've been very creative with ways to blend in a fence here, but I think, I can't imagine a fence that doesn't disrupt the aesthetic that's really very nice of the deciduous trees and the arborvitae and the split. That would just look so nice and really take care of at least 90% of the problem within a year. It just seems a shame to mess with that now.
Mr. Benvedo?
Rich.
Sorry?
I
Yes.
wasn't sure you, I'd just like to say, we have a split rail fence now that goes the whole length, and it doesn't do anything negative to the aesthetic, really.
Yeah, but
Oh,
what
no, I think it'd be
we're
nice.
talking about is a 6
Oh, I understand. I'd rather see a fence than see that gray wall. With trees beside it, of course, a little nature was nice.
There were a couple of comments that came back from DPW, Conservation, and the Fire Department relative to snow storage. You aware of those?
No, not regarding snow storage, no.
Current plan for snow storage may be inadequate for a major storm while maintaining sight lines for Boston Street and South Maple Street.
I'm sorry, yes, that was asked about at the design review group. And so as we expressed to them, that big parking area, maybe we need to sacrifice a couple of parking spaces in that case in order to stockpile snow back there. But, in terms of, obviously, we have obligations, which of course Mass DOT is not going to let us mess around with in terms of maintaining the windrows and everything else. So nothing should impact visibility.
You have additional spaces, so it wouldn't be like you'd be putting yourself in a parking deficit.
Well, so currently I'm in 3 spaces, and then, maybe that's part of what the restaurant needs to understand is, like, in this circumstance, if we have to pile snow because we get walloped, I mean, that's just the nature of, but it's a temporary thing.
And then the Fire Department had a concern about emergency vehicle access to the south building.
Yes, so we provided to the board in a supplemental filing last week, and happy to bring it up on, we have provided them 4 different swept paths. Now, the 4th one shows they were concerned about the ability for a fire truck to basically come through from Boston Street, run along the southernmost parking bay, make the turn so that they could park here to respond to a call, and then egress from the site. So we just needed to show them an additional swept path. Basically, they have 360-degree access to all the buildings.
Okay. Planning board reviewed the application on 2/12 and voted unanimously to offer a positive recommendation for approval. With the following condition, the applicant should assess the feasibility of locating the trash disposal for the south building further from the perimeter of the property, and that's what we've been discussing here. Okay. And the ICDCRC had no concerns with the changes. Okay. All right, so what's the pleasure of the board here? Do we have enough? Do we need to come back? What are we doing?
I think there's enough.
We have enough?
I feel like
I
there's,
think we can, yeah, and we can condition,
we can condition
Okay.
things, yeah.
you know.
Do we want to have
I
maybe
feel a
vote?
little nervous doing that without Craig here, but I think we can do it.
Okay, well, I have,
Anna will.
oh, you know,
I trust you.
I have a script.
I will say, because this is a modification, we don't need to go through all of the special permit criteria. There's some wording about how to reference the previous special permit.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
The board ready to vote then? Okay.
What are we conditioning?
Well, I have to go through the findings first.
So, open the dumpster, everything stays.
What's that?
So we're not moving the
We're not
dumpster, everything
entertaining
stays?
dumpster or anything like that, so that's all gonna stay, and then we're gonna,
Well, I think we can just condition that we're going to put the
Keep working
fence
on it,
and,
Yeah, with the phones.
do you have a recommendation?
You willing to keep working on it? Well, I know you need to get back to the restaurant, that's our concern here.
yeah, I know.
Are we holding you up if we wait or no?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we can't, I mean, it's all a timing thing, right? So I can't get into lease negotiations until I can prove to them I can give them the parking they need, and then it's just all the time delay.
Are you coming back anyway for something else after you get their lease?
Not that I know of. You know, it's all going to
Don't
depend
enjoy
on who the next
coming
tenant. Yeah, I mean, we're in discussions with multiple other prospective tenant space users, but, you know, part of the issue here is nobody wants to commit until they know when they're going to break ground. I can't tell when I'm going to break ground until I have somebody committed. So it's sort of a catch-22 right now.
Just while you're on that, where are we with the Mass DOT process?
We are waiting for them to, so we've completed the RSA. We have submitted a access permit just to get into 114 to complete the survey work of the drainage structures. And they informed us earlier this week they were supposed to have it done by tomorrow, and now they said they'll maybe get to us by the end of March on the 75 to 90% drawing review, just to do survey work. So it's, I guess they're reviewing the safety plan for the surveyor to be out in the right-of-way. So we're waiting for that, so we can then know what the pipes are and all the stuff that we talked about in terms of the drainage pipe, so we can even put together an application for the actual access permit for the project.
Bill, do you have a thought on the dumpster?
I'm just saying maybe we just have them come back. I don't know if I want to have them come back, though. I'm just saying that because, I mean, it may make sense to move it, but
So,
I'm 50-50 on it, to be
I
honest
mean,
with you.
from where the dumpster was now, closest to the curb line, to where it was before, how much closer are we to the curb line?
It's about 24 feet closer to the property line and the curb line. So, and then the dumpster is still, in the proposed location, it's about 100 feet from the nearest single-family home. And like as a frame of reference, Maggie's Farm, their dumpster is less than 80 feet from the nearest single-family home, as context. So it is closer by 20-some feet, but it is still, you know, a significant distance away.
What was the distance to the nearest home?
It's like somewhere between 78 and 80 feet for where the Maggie's Farm dumpster is to the nearest
Yeah, but
single-family home.
I think that's a different
But how
comparison.
close is
That's
this
a big
one?
comparison. I mean, that's on a big hill, and, you know, you can't see it if you're up on the thing. That's a different, I think that's a different case. but-
This
I
was
mean,
100 feet.
I think you can configure it to stick it in that area, depending on what you're doing for your back entrance. So if we were to approve it as is, but then have you come back with a plan of where that's gonna be, or maybe a small reconfiguration, would you consider that or no?
So, I guess I'm confused. The entrance that we're talking about, are you talking about the entrance of where patrons would go in? Because
Yeah.
again, the patrons are going to go through the glazing in that corner.
Yeah, that
That's not
glazing on
gonna
the
change.
left-hand side, so that whole right-hand side there, I mean, that dumpster could go there, and you can reconfigure that parking. I mean, the handicap spot doesn't necessarily have to stay exactly where that is, there's one that you'd have to move, and I think you can offset the parking to all work. It looks to me like you can, you just can move it, you'd move it into the drive aisle on the other side, like by the back of the residential building. In that far corner, that one spot,
Yeah.
that would all work from an
So,
ADA standpoint, and I
from
think.
from a technical perspective, yes, that could be done. I would say from an aesthetic perspective, I really would not be a fan of that, because, again, I understand it's the back of the building, but really there's 90 parking space. I mean, it's essentially the second or third front door to the space. And, you know, we tried to do this O&M plan to really manage how we would make sure it stayed clean and odor-free, and I understand nothing's perfect, but I'm not aware of there being like massive issues at other restaurants in town.
Yeah, that was,
you
that
know,
was actually a question I wanted to ask.
But if I'm on an island here, I mean, I hear you.
Yeah,
I'm only one
I
vote.
think you're
so-
on an island.
Okey dokes.
But,
I'm hearing it.
Anna, you might have, I don't know if you've talked to Tracy at all about reports from other restaurants in town. I mean, I know that there's lots of mice around here. I'm not sure about other kind of vermin, that if there's any reports of rats or anything like that, just to allay, I mean, I don't know if we can allay any fears for the
Yeah.
Blue Haven.
I don't know right off of any reports. Tracy would know that right off, but the health inspector goes regularly to every restaurant in town and does an inspection. The dumpster, the trash is included in that. And if they find any violations, it's a pretty big concern. So the restaurant has a lot of incentive to keep the area clean. If it gets to the point where there's a report of rodents, that's an even bigger concern. Most try not to ever get to that point, and things are handled on the annual inspection basis.
So, Laz, I have a question, and first of all, what kind of roll-offs are they? I mean, they're not just like open?
They're not open, but they are generally 8 to 10 cubic yard dumpsters that have the metal flapping tops. That's right. So
So they're closed?
They're closed. They have to be, and that's on the O&M plan. They need to be closed, sealed. There can't be holes. There can't be, they've got to be new or like new condition. Like there's all the sort of standard thing. I mean, these can't be like big rust buckets with holes in them and that kind of a thing. Normally, for food service, the lids are weighted. They're metal. They're not the plastic ones like we might know in apartment context sometimes. But then the truck comes in with their forks and they flip them up and over and into the hauler.
How often is that?
So the O&M plan says whenever it's full, it's got to be pulled right away, and then otherwise there'll be some sort of a regular maintenance schedule. It just would depend on the restaurant's anticipated waste production schedule, which I have no clue.
In the O&M manual,
Yeah.
The concrete pad that this thing is on.
Yes.
Right? Does it require that is washed from time, hosed down from time to time, and that materials can't be, any spillover has to be picked up and all that?
Yeah, there's not in there a specification of a frequency of washing it, but there is the requirement. Any spills need to be addressed immediately. We have to provide hose bibs in the area so that the washdowns can occur if there's need to. But there's not like a regular maintenance plan of we're washing it down with some sort of frequency.
But you can't have food on the ground that's...
No, yeah, of course. I mean, again, I don't want that, right? I mean, we have an apartment building right next door as well. The idea is to have this be a, Class A operation, even if it's to the side from the patron experience. It still essentially is you're walking by a set of dumpsters. I mean, I'm sorry I'm not as familiar with operations here on the North Shore, but I'm used to Del Frisco's and Westwood down at University Station, and it's as an enclosure very much like what we're proposing. And you walk by that after you've parked all the time, and it's kept clean, and so you don't even notice it. Generally speaking, that's the goal.
Expect someone doesn't want to smell swill walking into the building to get dinner.
It's not the way not the way to gin up an appetite. So the goal is to have this all be an operation. And I just would point out as well, there's another dumpster next to the north building that's right next to the apartment building, and so the same expectations in terms of cleanliness and operations and everything else. Again, we're hoping we have some sort of food service up there, obviously not a full-service restaurant, but the idea is to try to make sure this is done in a cleanly, professional, quality way.
Okay. Is there anyone else has anything else to say? Yes, sir. Come up to the mic so folks can hear you at home.
Can you tell us the length of the building, the restaurant? So if you stop the fence at where the corner of the building sticks out, what is the full length? And then how far in would you propose the fence?
We weren't willing to do that because they have the white section of the building, and we want to keep the white
Right,
section.
right. The white section is here, correct?
Yeah,
So I'm trying to figure out the distance between here and here, and then how much feet would you actually propose the fence?
So just rough
just-
numbers,
yep.
and Ed's looking up the specifics, but I believe the building is roughly 40 feet wide by 110 feet long. The barn statement is normally about 30 feet wide, so there's 80 feet of that gray field, so I would propose to go up about 40 feet, which is roughly where this tree is, and that would be a nice natural place to explain a change in behavior of the fence relative to everything else.
I think it's a compromise.
I'm starting it from the corner of the dumpster, yes, so it'll screen the transformer and then keep running, basically to around where that tree is and then turn.
Would it make sense to start it from the front of the dumpster?
Okay. All right. I think we're ready. All right, so the first thing is relative to findings, I'll accept the motion to find that the proposed changes are in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the bylaws and continues to meet the special permit criteria as outlined in the prior decision. Someone's got to say so moved.
So moved.
And
I'll second.
And we have a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Based on those findings and the evidence presented, I'll accept a motion to approve the special permit modifications requested.
Are we
we
adding
Are we adding
conditions?
conditions?
We would add the condition, right?
Wait, well, that's,
That would be
well,
for
then
the
it's site plans, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's go to site plan after that.
So moved.
Sorry, Rich.
So moved, and I have a
Second.
second. And is any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Based on the findings, I'll accept a motion to approve the revised site plan with the following conditions.
Fence.
A 6-foot vinyl fence, approximately 40 feet,
White, final.
white vinyl fence, approximately 40 feet
Well,
long from the dumpster to, I don't know, halfway up the building, is that what you're saying?
that's gonna be more than 40 feet. Yeah.
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 Okay. You'll
From
do
the
the,
dumpster
because you'll do
to
the
40
dumpster.
feet.
Get into the dumpster to 40 feet in from the building corner, roughly, you know.
That.
Because I think they
To the
come in
proposed
standard-
tree.
Standard 8-foot panels, so we'll just, run them to a natural turn point and then turn that in.
However that, yeah.
We don't normally do this, but I'll allow you to ask a question.
I appreciate it. Is it for the few feet, can it start from the beginning of the dumpster? It's gonna look silly from the middle, from the start of the transformer. Can it please start from the front of, so it hides the dumpster? Just start it from the front of the dumpster, the beginning of the dumpster, to halfway through the
yeah,
building?
it's-
It's gonna look foolish.
That's where it's starting.
No, he's starting it from the
I'm starting it
transformer.
here.
Started from the beginning of the
Started here.
dumpster to halfway up the building.
So you want a fence that goes beyond the screening that's already with the dumpster?
Yes, please. It's gonna look silly to have, it's gonna look foolish halfway between the dumpster and the transformer. Started from the beginning of the dumpster.
I think the condition is the fence will start at the dumpster, extend easterly to a point 40 feet from the building edge line. Is
Exactly.
that right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, from the beginning of from the left of the dumpster. not
Side
on-
of the dumpster.
Stop, you know what?
Is that what we're saying?
Stop. We got too many people
Yeah,
discussing this at the same
that's what I'm
time.
saying.
Mr. Renault, can you recap the condition, please?
It's confusing.
I'm gonna go with a recap, all right. All right, so a 6-foot vinyl fence starting from the dumpster to approximately 40 feet up the building at the proposed tree, turning into the building.
White,
White vinyl fence.
And then turning 90 to the building.
angle to the
yep.
building.
We like that?
But I guess,
You're gonna have a fence next to a fence,
yep,
okay?
turning toward the building, but not connecting to the building. We want to maintain
Correct.
access. It's just
Just a return.
Just a return, one panel's worth or what have
Yeah,
you.
that sounds good, I'm down.
Okay.
We're okay.
Now,
Yep.
I guess I have a clarifying question. There is a fence behind the dumpster enclosure.
Well, there's the enclosure. Has a-
It's an enclosure.
Yeah.
So we're putting this
Yes.
additional fence behind,
The enclosure fence. Is that what we're saying?
What I'm hearing.
For what purpose?
It's to hide the dumpster aesthetics.
You're not seeing the dumpster. You're seeing an enclosure around the dumpster.
So you don't see two different, it's gonna be one
Two different
straight run
materials is what they're
across the
saying.
dumpster, across the transformer, halfway down the building, so it's one clean run.
Yeah.
That's up to Lars.
Is that what the condition is?
Is that what the condition is?
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
I mean, because you don't want to see the two materials, that's the idea.
Right, we don't want to see two different materials, we want to see one clean run,
All right,
so
and-
it's
and-
from
and-
the.
and We got it, we got it.
Okay,
We
thank
got
you.
it.
So moved.
Is that the only condition?
That is.
That is. Okay.
I believe that was the only condition.
That was it, right?
I can't remember at this point. We've gone in so many circles.
That's what my notes say.
Okay. Glad somebody takes notes. I guess I'll second.
Okay. God help us, is there any additional discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Did you say aye, Ian? Okay. You're all set.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you, for engaging so much. Like, I know it's been a long haul for all of us. It's been exhausting for all of us, but we really appreciate it.
We got
Thank
to a
you.
good balance, right?
Yep. I mean, we got somewhere. I don't know.
Okay. Next up is our staff report. Anna Hammer.
No staff report.
No staff report?
I have one additional item.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yes. It's
Not
not a long one.
anticipated by the chair? You'll see it.
Thank you, Mr.
folks.
Feldman.
Correct, unanticipated. Give me a second. So we have just kicked off a zoning review to look at mostly stylistic changes in our zoning bylaw.
Mostly what?
Stylistic changes. Not talking map changes, style changes. I put out a request for qualifications to select a consultant to support the project, and I am wondering if the zoning board would nominate one person to be on the consultant review team. They would review the proposals that come in, evaluate them based on our criteria, and then the top 3 consultants we get, or 2, would come before the zoning board and the planning board for a final interview.
When is
I'm
when
happy
is
to
that
do that.
What's that?
I said I'm happy to do that. If somebody wants to nominate.
I would too. Do you need more than one?
I would recommend.
I can tag out too. I have no problem. If you
It's a
want to do
big
it.
group. It includes someone from the planning board, someone from zoning board, someone from select board, and then a couple town staff.
When is the review taking place?
So I'm asking for proposals back March 20th. So it would be between March 20th and probably 2 weeks after that.
I'll have them both, because one can talk with the other in case
Or you
one
can-
can't make it, which
I'll
happens
do.
frequently.
I'll go as an. I'll be an alternate.
Yeah.
Just do it that way. But you go.
Yeah.
I'll
But
be
I
an
think-
alternate.
All right, because we look at that stuff all the time. We
Yeah.
look at that stuff all
Well-
the time while we're writing them.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how many proposals we're going to get. If we get a lot, it would be significant. If we only get a few, probably we would bring
So
most folks
let's
before
leave
the
it at
board.
this. Bill and I'll decide who's going to go, based on
Maybe
schedule.
maybe an alternate. I'm fine.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, if you end up having like
Like any of us
if
could
you have
go,
people
yeah.
that are doing,
Yeah.
working with the consultant, I'd definitely be interested in that. Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
I'm,
yes.
I'm good with.
hoping all of
that
you
will
would
be
be
all of
working.
us,
Yeah,
right?
that
Yeah.
would be everyone.
Right.
This
But I
would
think just
just be
selecting a
reviewing
consultant?
proposals. Yep.
Chances are, he and I probably know who's
Yeah.
these folks are.
I say go for it, Rich. You can have it. You know, you
Yeah.
got time.
I
Do
have
it.
no
And
interest.
well, I just want to reiterate too, the final recommendation of award would be a vote of the board. This
Yeah,
is
so
just
that's
to
cool.
narrow down.
Yeah,
And
so
so
I'm-
we would
I'm
have
down
to
with
make,
that.
we would have to make our findings to the board.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna write down Rich with Bill in case is needed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there anything else anyone has?
I have a motion to adjourn if no one's.
So
Is there,
moved.
is there any additional discussion?
Is there anyone from the audience that has anything to add about adjourning?
Hearing none.
Without objection,
No
we're
objection.
adjourned.
Let's go.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.